Welcome back to the Rodcast. Getting closer and closer to the weekend. It means getting closer and closer to football, which we'll talk a lot about. As a matter of fact, you got football tonight. We'll get into that a little bit. Also, we'll talk Longhorn football. They're on a bye week, but still, we'll discuss their upcoming opponent, the Oklahoma Sooners, a little bit, and talk about the Texas Longhorns. I've been doing some deep dive, some rabbit holing, if you will, about the first 5 games, phase one, as Sark likes to call it. So we'll dive into that coming up a little bit later on. We get behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll also talk about the unfortunate sweep that the Astros found themselves on the downside of. The hot team theory holds true once again. When a good team or a better team meets a hot team in the postseason, man, hot team usually wins. That was the case yesterday for the Detroit Tigers. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into it. Also, we'll dive into the Cowboys a little bit. There is a discussion, or at least there are reports that the Cowboys, or at least doing their due diligence as it relates to the Davante Adams trade possibility. So we'll discuss it, whether the Cowboys are actually in the Davante Adams sweepstakes or if it's just a lot of speculation for the Cowboys. A lot of salacious headlines, which the Cowboys like a lot of that. We'll talk Texans on the show. The more I look into this specific issue for the Texans, the more concerned I am. So we'll get into that too. We'll also have all your usual favorites. We'll have Raj Rant. We got what the facts, what the stats. We also got who said that. We'll have off the record, the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We're loaded as usual on a Thursday. But before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I found out this morning, apparently. I scrolled through my news feed this morning and I found out apparently there's no more toilet paper. We've run out as a country again.
It's because of the longshoremen strike and all this.
There's a strike at the port, and so people freaked out again, and now everything's being bought up. And
yes, I know. Actually, I'm not even going to get deep into it, but I do know about this because I got a phone call yesterday and had a conversation with someone about like this very topic. So I don't know why people are freaking out about it, but I agree. It's a thing now. I haven't been to the grocery store, so I don't know.
I have not either.
From that conversation yesterday, I had apparently it's a thing.
Yes,
because the longshoremen?
They said it's a port worker strike, is what I'd read, and they were basically that now there's a strike, and then oh my God, everybody get everything.
Country gets shut down.
It's over and over again. It never ends. The amount of people.
The threat of Armageddon happening apparently because of this strike. I'm with you. I'm not gonna. We have lots of toilet paper. We shop at Costco now because we're a family. So I don't know how much extra I need to get. But you're right. That is the first. When there's a panic, it's strange. Like toilet paper is one of the first things. Like I gotta get a lot of. And I trust me. I understand. And that's when you learn what bad toilet paper actually is, because the toilet paper that is still left, that's the toilet paper that not even the freaks will buy. It's like, no, hell no, I'm not buying that toilet paper. I'm not. No, that's terrible toilet paper.
Like you make one ply toilet. Who makes one ply? Seems like that couldn't do anything.
Don't skimp on your toilet paper, folks. That's one of the things I would say. Certain things in life you don't skimp on. Toilet paper should be one of them. I learned pay the big bucks.
So the toilet paper one was funny. That was when I was young. And I was living with some guys who were a little bit older than me. And like I bought cheap toilet paper or something like that. And one of the guys was like, hey man, I'm like, well, I don't care about the toilet paper. And they're like, it's not about you. You don't. It was all about the lessons of adding the least amount of deal breakers to your house for when you bring a girl over. The least amount of deal breakers you can add to your home.
That is actually true.
And that was one of them. It's like, man, if she goes over there and you're having a nice dinner and everything's fine, and she goes to the bathroom and you got some sandpaper in there, your night's over.
Pretty much, it's ruined her night. And if her night's ruined, then your night's ruined.
Yeah, and I was like,
I never thought about it like that. That's actually not why I say that, but that is a great. That's a great
early life lesson of things in your house that I was like, as a guy, I just never cared about. But then they were like, it's not for you. And, Oh, that makes sense.
I care about it. I care about it for me. I know some people just say wad it all together. Like, no, I
probably care more now than I just have done it since I was like 20.
That's true. Yes.
I haven't gone back since I was 20. So I probably would care more now at 20-year-old
Yes.
Patrick didn't care about much.
That's true. Yes. I don't think I learned that lesson probably when I went to college and was buying my own toilet paper, I guess, at that point. And you're like, oh, no. I'm buying the good stuff. No. We're going to buy the stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it's costly, I may not have a lot of money, but that I'm willing to spend money on.
And that I also
gotta
spent a lot of my youth touring around with bands and being in hotel rooms. And depending on which hotel you're in,
getting cheap toilet paper there.
You get cheap toilet paper.
They don't care. Yep, you're right. I've been in hotels. Even some I thought were nice. I'm like, what is this? Is this really the toilet paper?
No, that's how you know a hotel room is really cheap, is when they give you the spare and it's like still wrapped, but you can tell it's in like the cheapest one. Like it says on the side, like cheapo toilet paper. You're like, come on, man. Don't leave the cheap label on it.
You need to pay extra. Do you pay extra just to get some nice
you go to a nice hotel,
or bring your own.
It's got like a monogrammed like sticker on it to let you know it's a good stuff. Yeah. You can tell.
Yeah, that's how you know, because it's thick enough where it can have the little writing and stuff on there, the decorations. When it's thin, there's no you can't write that. No frills. There can't be any decorations
coming apart. You just roll it and like I don't even know where it starts and ends.
Oh man, that is I don't think we've ever had a conversation this deep about toilet paper.
No,
that's that Seinfeld episode.
Yes,
where, toilet paper hasn't changed in 100 years. It's like toilet paper's changed. More sheets, right? Variety of colors. Yeah, toilet paper's still evolving. Has it? Yeah, it's still evolving. There you go.
It's good stuff. That's good stuff. Mike, let me introduce you, my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate that intro, brother. Every time it gets sweeter and sweeter. But the season for the Astros, it tastes a little sour the way it ended for the Astros. For some reason, I thought they at least push it to 3. Not the case. It may be the Detroit Tigers' year. They look like they're a team that's hot, playing their best baseball at the right time, and nobody really saw that coming. I mean, the Astros were one of the odds-on favorites to make the World Series.
Yeah, once they turned it around, everybody thought that they had a real shot. But I think, we've talked about this a little bit with other teams, that this season, multiple points of it felt like this was an Astros team that felt like they could flip the switch. And they'd been there enough and they'd done enough that there was enough players on this team that was like, oh, no, when we need it, we can do it. There was never any urgency. And at a certain point, they hit urgency in the 8th, 9th inning. And you're like, man, you can't do in the 8th. Like, have a little bit earlier in this. Like, and I get, you had problems of, you had guys like Jordan who couldn't run out singles, and so they get that big rally and really they got lucky on the 2 runs they scored. Because the 2 runs they scored, one of them was on an infield hit where the guy just basically made a bad throw to home. And the bad throw to home was, and then he gets in, and then you get another on a foul ball that really wasn't deep, and Pena just made a great run, great read on a great run home,
awesome.
to get the lead, and so you're like, that's great, and then they immediately give it back, and then load the bases, and the 2 guys you're paying all this money to have this great bullpen lose you the series, lose you the. And can't get you anything. Hunter Brown pitched a great game.
He had a great game.
But it's going to be, you watch it and it felt like there wasn't the urgency. There is some poetic license that A.J. Hinch started the Astros dynasty and then probably just ended it.
In its current, I agree. The current form of it seems like there got to be some changes now. They're at a crossroads. This is a crossroads.
Well, they're at a big crossroads because you see, Justin Verlander is probably going to be gone. Alex Bregman is a free agent coming up. I know Altuve made a plea to Crane to pay Bregman after the season that he really, and so if you lose Bregman, that's a big piece of it. Kyle Tucker's got a year left on his deal. We don't know what he's feeling, if he feels like he's going to come back or not, or he may want to move on. There was a whole thing with the shin this year where feels like it was misdiagnosed as a bruise, and then it was a break. And that's still kind of all up in the air. And so we don't know what that is. That whole point is. Framber Valdez is a free agent. You're most likely not re-signing him. So you've got like 7 or 8 starters that you're paying right now, and just none of them can stay healthy. So even though Framber is your ace, you may let him go to keep your other guys. it's going to be an interesting offseason that Jim Crane has not been one to normally spend a ton. Like, he spends enough, but he's not going over. And so it was a big deal that he signed Josh Hader and gave him a huge contract. And then he started off the season bad and he finished the season bad.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Yeah, and it was pretty remarkable that Detroit, they used 7 different pitchers.
Yeah. and the Astros would be able to get going, and then all of a sudden they would just get too antsy and swing at some early pitches and not get the pitch they want and hit into double plays and get out of innings. And they just kind of let the Tigers get out of a lot of innings where they would get them in a jam, and then instead of being patient, just go for it and just have that kind of confidence of, well, we've always been, early swingers. Altuve's our leader. He's an early swinger, so we'll all be early swingers. And it killed rallies. It killed drives.
Yeah, no, I would say that, AJ Hinch, it was a masterful managing job.
Yeah,
100%. It really was. So you just got to give him credit in that regard. But I'm with you. I thought, Hunter Brown, he had 9 strikeouts, second most by an Astros pitcher in their first career postseason start. So he had a spectacular performance for the Astros. But it's true, the Tigers just may be, that hot team. I don't know how far this thing's going to take them, but I love this stat. Well, as an Astros fan, I don't love it, but it's a remarkable one. Shows you how hot this team is. Tigers are the 4th team in history to win a playoff series after being 10 plus games behind of a playoff spot at least 110 games into the season. The other 3 all went on to win the World Series. 2011 Cardinals, 69 Mets, 64 Cardinals. It's like they're just, when you get that hot at that time, like, because that kind of came out of nowhere, and then it just not just got hot. It didn't slowly start to build. It just caught fire, and it seems like it's still happening right now. And so we'll see. But I think it's just the hot team theory and the Astros. I'm with you. I love that you said it, because I feel like that about the Kansas City Chiefs this year, and that's I said that earlier. We've seen that with the Warriors at the end of their dynasty. At the end of the dynasty, and I'm not saying the Kansas City Chiefs are gonna win another one, but toward the end, there is an ability usually to flip that switch. That when they need to turn it on, these teams can turn it on because they've done it. So they've been there so many times, and they've done it so often, and they have the championship DNA and pedigree to do it. But then oftentimes at the end of those dynasties, there seems like there comes a time, in most of them, where they try to flip that switch, and then there is nothing. There is no mojo there. It doesn't do anything, and they find themselves facing the reality that, we don't have it right now. We don't have it. That other team actually has it. And I think that may be the moment for the Astros. They saw it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was. You got that run in from Pena, and you kind of were like, yep, there it is. We got it, guys.
It's happening.
Immediately,
we knew it.
Everyone, the entire, it felt like the crowd, the clubhouse, everybody just went, yeah, all right, World Series, here we come. And the Tigers weren't done yet. And for whatever reason, the Astros in their head didn't think, this team still is hungry. They still want to do it. And they went out and tried to just play, they flipped the switch back off.
They didn't realize it. They didn't realize the switch was off again. Like, who hit the switch? I hit the switch. Turn it back on. Man, who turned the switch off? It was like, it was AJ Hinch did. He knows about the switch too. So no, it's unfortunate for the Astros, but it'll be, like I said, it'll be a really entertaining offseason to see the moves that they make.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. I won't say entertaining. It may be bad.
Well, it may not be. Yeah, because it's true. You hope it's entertaining.
You hope it's entertaining. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do it, or if this is the, hey guys, well, we knew we were gonna have to rebuild it sometime, so let's try and expedite a rebuild, and we'll maybe trade Kyle
Tucker.
What
move would signal that to you?
Trading Kyle Tucker. That would be the big one. So letting Bregman go is kind of there, but if you say we've got a year of control of Kyle Tucker left, let's go get some picks or young players for him. We may say young players, but we'll go get some young players for Kyle Tucker and give him up to a team. And then we know we're basically not trying to win next year, but trying to expedite the rebuild of our farm system with basically a bad year and trading away a couple players. And then we'll restart back up here in 2026, 2027.
Yeah,
trying to
version.
With a different version and the new version of the Astros, which is a crapshoot because you can do that and go, well, it's 2027. I mean, 8, 9, 30, 31. I know, guys, we're coming back. No, we just missed on a few.
I gonna say it depends on how those prospects work out for
Exactly.
you that you got in the farm system. Yeah, how quickly they develop. It depends on that's the rebuild. Yeah, that's a good. So we'll be looking out for that. No, good stuff there. But I don't know how many Astros fans are ready for that reality of a rebuild.
No,
because you've been on top for so long. It's
no,
it's hard
seven straight ALCSs as a heck of a streak.
And we all assumed it was going to be 8. I think that was just like this assumption.
Yeah.
Even when they lost game 1, I was like,
yeah.
I got a
Good
little
wake-up call.
Yes, I was like, they'll win game 2. We'll have some drama in game 3, and then they'll pull it out. And that was just not the case. So it may be the Detroit Tigers year. We shall see. Is it the Cowboys year?
Well, I'll say this, sure. And now we've officially reached anyone but the Yankees or Dodgers. Anyone but the Yankees or Dodgers.
Just any story is good. As long as
anything but the Yankees or Dodgers. Anyone in MLB that is not, we spent the most money, so we win.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a good point. And it's, oh man, I'm with you on that. I guess usually I'm rooting for the Astros, so I'm not in this position usually. So
no, and
this early in the baseball
year,
playoff, not used to be.
Even last year, you go, the Astros get knocked out, and you're in the World Series. You went, well, go Rangers. Go, you know.
Exactly. That was an easy transition. I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll root for the Rangers, even though they're rivals. Like, this from the state of Texas. We need storylines to talk about. Hey, they're World Series champions, and I was hoping that you'd get that, the back-to-back World Series champion thing too. That'd been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Again, for the Astros and the Rangers, thought that would have been cool. But anyway, Astros are out of the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit more about that, of course, later on in the show, and actually got some nice factoids from what the stats about that matchup. Let's talk about the Cowboys. And there's some bad news with the Cowboys and some salacious news with the Cowboys. The bad news is it looks like Brandon Cooks is now out for this game versus Pittsburgh. And I don't know, that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know, I haven't been hearing much about it, but he is out. He's got an infection, basically, he's dealing with. So he's going to be out. So you now adding to the list of guys, Micah Parsons didn't practice yesterday, and I assume he's going to be out. We just don't know how many games. DeMarcus Lawrence is already on the IR. You're still waiting on Deron Bland. That's going to be a little while, too. And then remember, Kalen Carson is still out. And we're not sure about his timetable. Injuries right now are decimating the Cowboys.
Yeah, and
I think they're not gonna. I'm not gonna pick them to win this game versus Pittsburgh just because of the injuries.
Yeah, and it's not a good stretch for them either for that to happen, where you're not really in a place where you feel like you should be able to get some easier wins. This feels like you're going into a stretch right now. The Steelers are a team that's going to be able to run downhill on you a little bit. Mike Tomlin, we know, is a heck of a coach. And then you go play the Lions and the 49ers.
Oh, Lions are rolling right now.
You've got the Falcons in there, the Eagles, the Texans, the Commanders. I mean, it is just, there's a lot of good teams in a row that you're kind of playing that if you don't get healthy, it's just going to be,
man.
It's going to be a long road.
And like I said, the Brandon Cooks thing for me, he's going to miss the Sunday game, and like I said, it was reported that he's developed an infection.
Apparently they did a procedure on his knee. So just whatever, I don't know if it was like a draining or whatever it was, and that got infected.
Wow. So now I'm looking at that offense. I mean, you don't have a running game, so you're overly reliant on your passing game, and now you're losing one of your top 3 weapons in your passing game.
I will say this: you should have a roster spot to bring up Dalvin Cook, right?
They say, actually, you're right. That it was reported. At least Stephen Jones said he looks good, and I'm with you. I think they're going to bring up Dalvin Cook. I believe. I mean, I haven't seen that confirmed.
We have enough injuries now that somewhere around there you should have a roster spot that you can throw Dalvin Cook in for a week.
Wow. So that's the bad news for the Cowboys. What is other news? I don't know if it's good news, but it's maybe salacious news. It was reported by multiple sources, including Diana Rossini yesterday, that the Cowboys are among many teams who just doing their due diligence, I imagine, monitoring the Devontae Adams situation. She said the Jets and the Cowboys are among many teams monitoring the situation. Both have checked in with the Raiders. She said, I'm told at this point that Vegas is in no rush to make a move until a team reaches their asking price. But they said Adams wants out ASAP. Jane Slater reported in regards to that story. She said Mike McCarthy was asked about Devontae Adams and speaks of his respect for him as a player, but doesn't get into talks or player acquisitions internally. I'm told the Cowboys aren't in on Adams. That's what she says. She said, I'm told the Cowboys aren't in on Adams internally, don't have the money, is what she put out there.
Shocking.
Of course, shocking. And more importantly, draft capital next year, more important than ever. Calvin Watkins reported that Mike McCarthy said, love the guys we have here. The two Jalen's Turpin, love our practice squad guys. So we like our guys. That's,
Jerry Jones is the only dude who can fly his helicopter onto the practice field and say, I don't have the money.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the optics of it. Yeah, I guess.
Dude.
It's that's not great. But yeah, so they, at least the Cowboys are, I say every team should be checking in on this. The asking price is too reasonable. It's just a second round pick and some other capital or a player or something. You should think every team should consider it.
And I think that's what's the Raiders now said, like a second, and then people are calling up and going, well, we got a fourth and a fifth. Like, man, we said reasonable. Come on, we said
like, how about a fifth and a fifth and a third? That adds up to a second. It's like, no, I said, yeah, you're right, right. You're right. It's like becoming like a garage sale over there.
How about a seventh and this player we don't want anymore?
No, if you're looking at teams who currently have enough cap space to acquire Devontae Adams, I mean, the Titans do, the Packers do, the Jags, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Cowboys included, the Commanders, the Lions, the Patriots, the Browns, the 49ers. So there are a lot of teams that have the cap space right now, and you can always move things around and make the cap space, restructure stuff. So if you want them, you can make that happen. The Cowboys, I just think I say they have more pressing issues. Well, with the Brandon Cooks thing, I don't know if you do now.
I mean, you do because Brandon Cooks could be back in
D tackle.
Brandon Cooks could be back in a week.
A run stopping D tackle,
and then you don't need it anymore. But he could be, and now you're like that defense. You've lost two defensive linemen, and your D line was suspect to begin with.
Well, Andy, remember you lost Sam Williams at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So you're actually down to your fourth and fifth defensive ends at this point.
Yeah.
That will be playing in this game.
Yeah.
That's concerning to me because I don't, you got to Justin Fields, you want to be able to apply pressure to him, force him into making some mistakes. I don't know if you're going to be able to apply that pressure from the edge like you normally do.
Yeah.
And your D tackles are just not. Oza Odighizuwa actually is a really good pass rushing D tackle, but those guys aren't having a great season overall. I'm just concerned about them being able to make impact plays on the D line, period, in this game versus the Steelers. So some of the matchups right now are just not in favor of the Cowboys. Another matchup, if you don't have a lot of receivers to go to, another matchup I don't like is the young rookie Tyler Guyton versus TJ Watt. Start thinking about that. I don't like that matchup.
No, I don't like any. I don't like many matchups versus TJ Watt.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. But I'm just thinking about him as a rookie and a young player. He's had some problems with penalties.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like that matchup. That's a matchup that could implode the game plan for the Cowboys, and your game plan is going to be a pass-heavy game plan.
Yeah,
because you don't have a running game at all, really. You don't have any explosive running back. So right now, things are not looking great for the Cowboys. I don't know how. I don't think Devontae Adams.
I think there's other issues. There's other issues, and for an ownership that says they don't have the money to do basically anything ever, that I think trading for an expensive wide receiver feels like moving the wrong way.
Yeah, it just feels unrealistic.
Yeah,
like you got substantive issues. That's something that's more style and less substance.
Yeah, if everything else is kind of there and you were like 3-1 and you thought, well, man, if we could add one more piece, we could be dynamic and great.
Bowl, yeah,
but there's giant chunks missing out of this guy's skin. It's fix that first.
No, I agree. I think you got glaring issues, and that would be kind of a glamour move. Not a move to fix your
and that's what you keep seeing is that Devontae would prefer to go play with Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers again, but apparently the Raiders are saying we're not necessarily trying to get him exactly where he wants to go. We're trying to get the right price, and so if those guys are going to call up, if the Saints and Jets are going to call up and say we'll give you a fourth, then we're not answering the phone. Like that's not worth it for us.
And then he may have to go, a different route. He may have to go somewhere for a year.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Maybe just like the Texans did with Stephon Diggs, right? Come to us, we'll restructure your deal. Basically turn you into a free agent, right? In 1 year, give you a bag of money for this 1 year, and then you can be a free agent, which is what you want. And then you could, so that's basically what the Texans did with Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
And they could trade for him. Obviously, it's a different situation, but they could trade for him and then basically give him the ability to become a free agent after they redo his deal. And that's why the Kansas City Chiefs might be a perfect situation. Like, hey man, we'll trade for you. We'll give up the draft cap. We can afford to do it. And we're all in anyway. And then when you come to us, we'll redo your deal, let you be a free agent, because we may want to re-sign you too. We don't know.
We may want to, but we may stay with Rashee Rice if he gets healthy again. And
who knows what X-Man's going to look like. We don't know. So why don't you come with us for this Super Bowl run? And then we'll reward you by letting you become a free agent. That'll be your reward.
Yeah. But then if you do that, Devontae will be like, I ain't going to play with Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. You can't.
Once you go Mahomes, it's hard to go back to any other QB. That I will admit. So I think that's what because he has 2 years left on his deal, correct? He's at a 25 and a 26 left on
yes,
but they're ridiculous.
And they're not major league guaranteed.
Bloated. Yes.
You have an out that I think is like $15 million to get out after this year, something like that in dead cap. So it's not a huge out to get out of it.
Yeah. So the new team would either have to sign him to a new deal, like a whole new deal probably, or do something where they restructure it and let him become a free agent. And like I said, I don't think the Cowboys is realistic, but the Cowboys just like being in headlines. And some people are saying the Cowboys should make the move. They need to trade for a running back. Go identify a running back, a really dynamic running back.
I agree.
Second, third stringer, and go get that guy.
I agree. Devontae Adams would make you a better team. There's so many other issues, and Jerry Jones is not looking at those, so I can't imagine he's also looking at this.
This was a pricey one, though. You can get the running back for relatively cheap. This will be because you got to give up the draft capital, second rounder, but then you got to pay the man. He ain't coming there just to work for pennies on the dollar. You got to pay the man, the running back. I think right now you want to improve the overall blueprint to win for the Cowboys. I think you need to go get a running back, and I think you need to do it relatively soon. Even the Rico Dowdle, who may be your best option, I don't love Rico Dowdle. I just think he's the best.
Does he have a run over 10 yards this season?
No, nobody.
It's real hard to love him. It's real hard to love you. For 4 weeks in, you couldn't get more than 10 yards on a run.
CeeDee Lamb has their longest rush of the season.
That would be reason. And it's fine. Yeah, but it's like 12 yards too. So it's not it's not again.
But he's a receiver.
I get that, but if you say the longest run and you go, oh well, he broke an end around for 45 yards. Okay, fine. But it wasn't that. They haven't been able to get they've never been able to pick up a first down on a first down with the run game.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That needs to happen at least once for me to think that you're a back that should be a starting back in the NFL.
Yeah, they got to figure it out. Because I think the problem is more the running backs and not necessarily the offensive line. We
just talked about Tyler Guyton and TJ Watt. You bring in 14 wide receivers. TJ Watt's still going to get to you.
He's still getting there.
Unless you can start to make him have to respect the run a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Then
only way to slow down a real good pass rusher.
Yeah.
Only way to run right at him. It's the only way.
And that's what they do with Micah Parsons.
The Cowboys should know that. The Cowboys should know that because that's what everybody does to their elite pass rusher. It's like, come on, that's the way you handle it. So we'll see what the Cowboys, what they can piece together. But they are a mass unit right now heading into that game versus Pittsburgh. We'll obviously preview that matchup a little bit more. But those are the headlines the Cowboys are dealing with here on a Thursday. Devontae Adams, at least they're making some calls. They should be making calls about running back and D tackle. They don't. Cowboys, I'm telling you, they could be hovering around a 500 season. I mean, I really do believe that now if they don't make some moves and make some quickly. All right, so we'll get back to the Cowboys. We'll talk Texans too. I've been doing some deep dive on the Texans and their issues. Oh, they got a game coming up versus the Bills this week. This is going to be a great test to see if these issues, these concerns that we have about the Texans, if they're going to hinder them, how much they're going to hinder them, because they are hindering them, how much they're going to hinder their chance of becoming a title contender in the AFC, because the Bills are just that. The Bills are legit. I mean, it's one of the best teams in the AFC, and we'll see if the penalties, the self-inflicted wounds, third and long if that comes back to haunt the Texans. All right, we'll get to that. But coming up next, let's go into our Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain. I've been doing some rabbit holing. The Longhorns had their best game when it comes to rushing the opposing passer. And it came to sacks. They got 6 sacks versus Mississippi State. They almost equaled their season total going into that game. They had 7 going into that game, but got 6 in that one game. So I started to look at the origin of those sacks and really how Texas has been able to generate pressure all season long. I'll give you those numbers and we'll dive into it. Also, we got to get into some Pro Football Focus. They actually did their mock draft, their way too early mock draft. There's some Longhorns mentioned there, so we'll dive into that. There's also a discussion I want to have about the Heisman, because the Heisman odds for Quinn basically indicate that he's out of the Heisman race. And I'm fine with it, by the way. We'll talk about that too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation and go behind the burnt orange curtain. I want to talk about the defense a little bit, but before we do that, I saw that the EA Sports college football video game has started to make their upgrades. They send out updates about the players, like based on the first few games. So they'll update the players. Some guys have a higher rating. Some guys have a lower rating. For offense, Kelvin Banks has they upgraded him 1 point. He is at a 95 now overall. Isaiah Bond got a bump, which he should have. He's at 89 now. Matthew Golden got a bump, 87. Silas Bowden got actually, yeah, they subtracted a point from his overall rating. So they deducted a point from him. So he's at 85. DeAndre Moore, they upgraded him 4 points in his rating. So he's at 81. Ryan Wingo got upgraded and updated to an 81. Amari Nyblack, they deducted a point from Amari Nyblack in his rating. Jerry Gibson, they up. Looks like they upped him 4 points in his overall rating. Trey Wisner got a 4 point increase as well. Jaden Chapman out of nowhere got a point increase on defense. Jade Barron got upgraded to an 89. Anthony Hill got upgraded to an 88. Makuba, they actually deducted 2 points from Makuba. I don't know why. Makuba has played really well, so he's at 87 now. Michael Taft Daddy got the largest increase in rating of anybody on the update. He got a 5 point increase to 83. Shout out to Taft Daddy. They recognize him. Taft Daddy, he's having a great season so far. Bill Norton, the transfer D tackle, got a 4 point upgrade in the update. And David Benda, he got a 2 point improvement on his overall rating. So there you go. If you're I actually have the video game and have not even opened it, the damn thing.
I don't have the right system. I got to get a better system. So
I do. I have the right system. I haven't even opened it. I haven't had time.
No.
I haven't had time. Actually, I didn't realize this is my first year of fatherhood. It's like, you ain't have time for no damn video game, man. You ain't gonna have time for it. I didn't know. I thought I had some time. I was wrong. So although I probably could re-gift it to somebody, one day I'm gonna crack it open and play it. You know what? Maybe this weekend, because we got a bye week.
You got a bye week.
I might be able to do it. I might be. I doubt it though. I don't know. I don't know if I have a spare like 3-4 hours to kind of get into it. So we'll see.
To get angry that you're bad at video games.
Yeah, because then it's a great point because I'm gonna play it. I know I'm gonna be terrible, so then I'm gonna have to try to play it just to get the reps to learn how to play it. And that's gonna be a 4 or 5 hour process. I just don't know if I have the time. So that's why the video game literally is sitting in the extra bedroom, and I have not opened I haven't opened the actual console or the game itself. None of it's been open.
No.
Yeah, sad. I was excited about it too. I was like, "Ooh, man, it's gonna be amazing," and I literally have not cracked it open. That's just my confession. All right, but I will at one point. I promise you that. All right, let's get into some Texas football discussion. I was rewatching the Texas Mississippi State game, and I started noticing some trends. And I wanted to look at the sacks because they had their best game when it came to producing sacks and creating pressures and sacks. They had 6 sacks against Mississippi State, and it was by a lot of different guys, right? Colin Simmons ended up with multiple sacks in that game, but Vernon Broughton and Colton Bosick ended up with sacks. Anthony Hill ended up with sack. Baron Sorrell had a sack. It seemed to be a party at the football. So it got me interested in what situations are we seeing these sacks come about for Texas. And what I noticed is just in that Mississippi State game, most of the sacks came in the second half. I believe you go look at it that of the 6 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, 4 of them came in the second half, and 5 of them came like either in the second half or in the last 2 minutes. I think it was the last 2 minutes of the first half. So it was the last 2 minutes of the first half and the second, basically right when Texas started to make some plays to separate. Right, it was a close game until, it actually was until even in the second half. But Arch hits that 49-yard touchdown to DeAndre Moore and on a 3rd and 9 at the end of the first half. And then at least that gave you some breathing room and some separation. And then you started getting your sacks after that. So the more Texas was able to separate, forced Mississippi State to abandon their game plan, that was really the key to them starting to get those sacks in bunches. Why? Because this is a team that ran the ball 50 times, Mississippi State did. So they clearly it was a deliberate, premeditated approach. Like, we are going to run the football. We're going to control the ball. We're going to, choke the clock as much as we can. All right. And we're going to slow this game down and limit possessions for the Texas offense and not allow them to get into a rhythm. And Jeff Lebby knows that really well. He knows how to coach against Sark in Texas because he did it at Oklahoma and did it successfully. So I think the game plan, was really good. And that's why you didn't get those sacks early in the game, because the game was so tight and they were able to run the football and stay somewhat on schedule and stay somewhat, on, at least not ahead of the chains all the time, but they never really got behind the chains. Right? They stayed out of like third and really long situations. And that's where you start being able to dial it up and getting some of your sacks and your pressures. So if you'll notice, most of your sacks, damn near all of them, came in the second half after you start to separate. And 5 of them came on first down. If you go look at it, on first down, well, that's overall. In that Mississippi State game, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them came. 4 of your sacks against Mississippi State came on first down, and which also means they were throwing the ball on first down, which they were not doing early in the game. They were not throwing the ball on early downs in the game. Once you started to get up in the game, so it's a complementary aspect to, I think, the pressure that Texas is trying to create and the pressure they're trying to cash in on, right, and translate into sacks. The more Texas gets up in games and they can create separation and create that desperation, if you will, in their opponent, they're going to start throwing the ball on earlier downs. They throw the ball on early downs. Everybody throws the ball on third down, but you throw the ball on early downs, it's more chances for me to get sacks. So it's more about opportunity. And Texas complementary football wasn't creating those sack opportunities, those pressure opportunities in the first half. But in the second half, look at it, they got all their sacks in the second half, basically. 5 of your 6 sacks came when they were basically when you started to get up on them and they start to feel that they were going to get blown out or Texas was about to separate and distance themselves from Mississippi State. So that's part of the key, I think. And against Mississippi State, I think it, why it hasn't happened in other games where Texas has gotten up big. They've been close in a lot of games. I'm hoping that now they're just it's a crescendo. They're building now up to as a pass rushing unit. All right, they're just kind of building up to these types of performances where they can get multiple sacks in a game. That wasn't happening early on. I think they have the talent, but guys like, first of all, Colin Simmons playing more. Let's just be honest. That's just Colin Simmons playing more means you're going to create more pressure and you're going to get more sacks. The more he has played, and he's got 4 sacks now, he hadn't even started a game yet. I think he's going to get double-digit sacks. I think there was 2 true freshmen that have gotten double-digit sacks. I think it's Tim Campbell and Tony Brackens are the only ones who've done it. I believe by the end of the season, we're going to add Colin Simmons to that list, that very distinguished list of elite talent at the edge positions. And his BGO and his ball get off are just downright scary. I was talking to Brian Robeson about it, and he says he's looking at certain indicators that he believes he finds a tell, either an offensive lineman giving away with their alignment or maybe with a certain gesture, with certain, I don't know, whatever it may be. He believes that it's not just his BGO, which is elite, his ball get off, and his speed rush or elite qualities in his skill set, but he also believes that something cerebral happening, that either he's watching on film and he's able to not only anticipate the snap count, but there is something giving it away to him that he's noticing. Now, I haven't played D in the NFL and at the college level, so I'm not looking that deep into it. But that's how dynamic and elite his BGO is that an NFL defensive end believes that he's not only anticipating the snap count, but he is somehow able to accurately predict it based on indicators that he is getting either throughout the game or that he got before the game in film study. Sark was asked about Colin Simmons and his elite BGO and his ability to get off the football. And here is Sark in the Monday media availability talking about that elite quality of Colin Simmons.
Well, I'd love to say I could coach it. I don't. I think sometimes there's God-given gifts that we all get, and height, weight, speed, arm strength, and the other one happens to be get off. There's an ability to get off the ball. I think early on was figuring out his get off, and he was trying to figure it out too, especially in college football and in high school football. You get so reliant upon the clap and trying to guess the clap, and that's how you jump off sides and different things. But I think he's key in the back tip of the ball, and when that thing's moving, he's rolling, and then he's using his fundamentals and techniques. He's not just rushing into guys. He's not just trying to run around guys. He's using the tools that we've been working on with him, and he's an impactful guy. His ability to rush is one thing, but his ability to make plays even when we drop him in space. For a defensive end to have 7 tackles, that's a lot of tackles. That's not most normal number for him that way. And I do think it is helping. I think it's something that's, Baron Sorrell comes out of the game with 2 sacks, Colton Bosick ends up with a sack. And so now all the different change up rushers that guys were attacking people with, when Collins there, it's speed, speed, speed. Next, here's Sorrell, here's Burke, and now they're bull rushing you. So I think the multitude of different style of rushers that we have and him providing that speed factor has been huge for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It is. So he's going to play more, and the more he plays, the better your pass rush is going to get. So you may get more multiple sack games because of him. And also, I think you'll get more blitzing. Texas has not blitzed really at all. I mean, they haven't blitzed. But if you look at it, out of their 13 sacks, 6 of them have come with at least a 5-man pressure. To me, a blitz, the definition of it is sending at least 5 players. So close to half of your sacks have come via the blitz, and your blitz rate is probably hovering around 20%. You're not blitzing that often. But when you do blitz, you're really effective. So I think you may get more blitzing. Hell, you may get it this week. Not this week, but next week against Oklahoma, against a young quarterback, just to speed up their clock a little bit. So that's something I think that will increase the sacks. If you can see more of the NASCAR dime that I have, I don't know what they call it. I call it the NASCAR dime, and I think everybody's kind of started calling it the NASCAR dime because it's a dime package, and they have a NASCAR front with 3 defensive ends, 3 edges. Barron Terrell gets bumped inside. They put Colin Simmons out there. They put Trey Moore out there. That 5 of their 13 sacks have come from the NASCAR dime, right? And they don't play it that often. They only play it when they're up big in games and in third down situations, third and long situations mostly. They'll play the NASCAR dime. And even with the injuries they've had recently at safety, with guys like Derek Williams being out, and they've had Jelani McDonald to deal with some injuries, they actually hadn't played the dime as much, I think, because of the injuries they've had. But that NASCAR dime, to me, it's my favorite exotic look that Texas has thrown out there. And if you go look at the defense, like basically on third and long situations, it's their go-to package. And honestly, it has been, I think, one of their most effective packages. They've created 9 havoc plays on third and long using either that NASCAR dime or the inverted Tampa 2 look with the 3 high safeties. We'll get into it a little bit later on in detail, but I think that's also when it can break out that specific personnel grouping. I think it leads to more splash plays because all your best players, all your splash players, on the field together, right? Your deepest group is probably your DBs now, right? They're just really deep and they're playing really, really well. So you got 6 of them out there. You got Anthony Hill in the middle. You bump Barron Terrell, your best all-around defensive end. He gets bumped inside to get a matchup advantage on a less athletic interior offensive lineman. You put Colin Simmons on the edge. You got Trey Moore. I guess some people would argue that maybe Trey Moore is not one of those guys because he hadn't made a lot of splash plays. But you put Trey Moore on the edge too. So you got your best natural pass rushers on the edge. They put Vernon Broughton, who's your best pass rushing D tackle, out there on the D line, and you just have all your best splash players on the field. Your havoc-minded players on the field together. That's why I love that package. I think that's why it's so effective too. All right, we come back. We'll get into the topic for the big fat poll of the day and the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back in the Rodcast here on a Thursday morning, and that means it's a new themed Thursday, playing songs that all fit a theme all show long. And today's theme is ACL Fest.
Nice.
Reminder to everybody to avoid driving from north to south or south to north on a moped for the next 2 weekends, if at all avoidable. If you are not going to ACL Fest itself, I would recommend staying far, far away from anywhere down there. It is going to be a lot of traffic going to ACL Fest, but we'll be playing ACL Fest artists all throughout the show. And I used to be old that I would look at the ACL Fest lineup and be like, not for me. There's a few bands I'd go see. I don't know if there's a single band I would go see in this lineup. Like at least top headliners.
Really?
Not a one.
Wow.
Not a one.
Not a one, huh?
No.
Okay.
And it's not that they're bad. It's not like I'm talking. They're just not my thing. Like Chris Stapleton's extremely talented. I would never go see him live. I don't like it's his style of music. It's too slow.
Yeah.
It's too many down songs. It's down. Like I don't want to go see a show.
Okay.
Just sit in a crowd. Just sit in a crowd quietly, just being like, oh, it's a grown man talking about his feelings. I don't want to do that. Seems awful to me. I get other people enjoy it a lot. And for me, that's awful. So I don't want to.
Oh wow, that's fantastic! A grown man talking about his feelings.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that.
I want to see a man sing.
No,
you Jerry Seinfeld?
Exactly.
It's awkward. I don't want to see a man sing.
Sing about his feelings for 2 hours. I don't need that.
I do love Chris Stapleton though, but
no, he's extremely talented. That's why I don't want to say I'm taking away. That's why I can play the music. They're all really talented people.
No, it's
still I'm just like none of it's my cup of tea. So it's like, and then there's artists that headliners that I couldn't tell you what style of music they play.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that too. There are some I'm like, I don't even know who they are, and I don't bother to do the research. I'm like, I don't even know who this band is, and they're supposed to be like one of the top acts coming in town. That's how I know I'm getting old.
Yeah, y'all in the big print. Y'all in the big print. Yeah,
and I'm just old. I don't know. I'm truly one of those people now. I'm like, I don't know. I have to Google it. Apparently,
like, is this a hoax? Is this one of those ones where they just made up names? I don't know.
No, like I said, when I know like half of the acts, I still feel like I'm pop culturally relevant. Like I still am on top of my game. But I'll admit sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I don't know who half of these bands are. I have no idea.
But if you're going, enjoy yourself. I will be more on the staying away side of it.
Well, you're an Austin Knight too, so you've had this this attitude for a long time about ACL.
I mean,
you're a true Austin Knight.
But I'm one of the people I've spoiled in the fact that like I started out when I was 17, 18 being backstage at shows and working shows.
Also true.
So I don't like being in the gin pop anymore. I can't. I can't be out there with everybody and just being part of it and everything and just experiencing it. I don't enjoy it because I know like what I'm supposed to be doing and what I want to be. And I'm like, I'm not going to fight through these people. So my two options are stay at the very, very back and where you can barely see it and you can more loudly hear the people around you's conversations than the music, or fight your way into it where I get social anxiety, where I get claustrophobic and anxiety. I don't want to be in the middle of it. So I'm like, I don't like either one.
I can't go to shows that big. I'm with you. It's
not for me.
No. Me too. That's too big for me.
No, not a fan, but I know there will be tons and tons of people out there. So good on you for them. Let's get to the big fat poll today. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. We'll get this posted up on the Horn at the Horn ATX on X as well.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we had to jam it in at the end of the show. So I thought we'd add a little bit more time to the discussion today. Which Longhorn has increased their draft stock the most so far this season? I thought it was an interesting question. I wanted to put it out there for you guys as well. If you have other names that we didn't get to yesterday or have other names that we didn't, and maybe you have a take of somebody else who's there, or you just think that one of these guys has increased their draft stock more than somebody else. Some of the names we went through yesterday, Gunnar Helm is, of course, on that list. Jake Majors is on that list. Jade Barron have increased his draft stock a lot this year. And then the last one I threw on there was Barron Sorrell. I think Barron Sorrell has climbed up draft boards a little bit as well, being a more versatile edge linebacker, where it feels like he was somebody that was on boards, but has maybe moved up him a little bit by being effective on a really talented team, continuing to be effective.
Yeah, Barnesboro creates a lot of plays. He's making more of them now. Obviously making some of those splash plays, but he creates a ton because he's just a wrecking ball. I think he's your best edge defender versus the run, and I think right now he is probably maybe your third best pass rusher among that group, and that's not an insult at all. It's just Colin Simmons is a natural pass rusher. Trey Moore, I think, is a nice natural pass rusher. I think Colton Vasek is actually proven it. He didn't play that much, but Colton Vasek's got 2 sacks.
Exactly. I think Vasek, as he continues, I know, and we've heard more about it, but he was, since he was a freshman last year, we didn't hear as much, but it feels like he was injured a lot of last year is what you kept kind of hearing was so maybe he didn't progress as much last season as they would have liked, but he seems to be progressing more, getting some more playing time, more practice time, and feels like he is going to be an impact player next season.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I'm
but
saying.
You can see
every time he's in there, he flashes.
Yeah, you can see the flashes in it, and it's if he can shore up everything else, then he's going to be a heck of a player next season.
Yeah, but I'm with you on Terrell. What impresses me most about Barron Terrell is the way he's changed his body. Like he looks like something out of a Marvel movie. And when you see him up close in person, like he is huge.
He's going to be one of those guys. I think that at the combine, when everybody sees him up in person,
combine freak.
And when you see him in person, all those guys when he's walking around and he's standing with the other guys, and he looks like a superhero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. When I went to practice, I didn't recognize him. I swear, when he walked by me, I was like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "That's Barron Terrell." Like he's bigger than he gets bigger every year. Like he gets more big. Like he's in terms of just adding muscle mass every year. And now he looks like an NFL defensive end. Like he looks like one. He didn't look like that 2 years ago. He looks like one, and now he's playing like one too. By the way, so I'm with you on the Barron Terrell thing. I think the fact that they're moving him around too is adding to his draft stock. They're seeing him move inside. He can play multiple shades for you. I'm with you, and he's the leader of that group. And he's basically has, even with all that talent in that room, he has gotten better. And even though they've added a ton of high level elite talent, in my opinion, especially a guy like Colin Simmons, they're not taking Barron Terrell off the field.
Exactly.
Barron Terrell, he's still been able to, maintain, and not only maintain, but get better and develop and progress every year. So I'm with you on that. Those 4 are pretty good. So you got 2 on defense with Sorrell and Jahdae Barron, and 2 on offense.
Yep.
Jake Majors and Gunnar Helm. Okay.
Yeah. We'll ask you which long run has increased their draft stock the most so far this season.
It's not easy. That's a tough one, actually.
No, and if you guys want to throw one on the text line, 512-447-3776, I'll get this posted up in the break on X, and you guys can throw in there if you have another solution or another suggestion of a name that you think went up there, and we can go into those. But I thought, we didn't give it much time yesterday, so let's give it a little bit more time today.
All right, I like that. Good discussion. We'll get back to that topic on the other side. We'll also talk a little bit more Longhorn football, of course, all throughout the show. But first, coming up, let's get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. This particular issue for the Texans, the more research I do, the more concerned I am. So that's not good heading into that game versus the Bills. And the Cowboys, this is the magical number for the Cowboys in their game coming up versus the Steelers. And we got a football game tonight. As a matter of fact, what's going on with Bijan? We got to talk about this. Have they not been able to activate Bijan? I don't know what's going on, but you go look at Bijan's stats. He's healthy. It's not necessarily an injury thing. I thought when I looked at his stats, like, oh, maybe he's been, nicked up and injured. Not really. So we'll see tonight if the Falcons can, weaponize Bijan, because right now, I think he's like 20th in rushing or something like that in the league. That guy, with that kind of talent, that is unacceptable.
Let me tell you, as fantasy football owners will tell you, they're not happy with.
I know, and they weren't happy with Arthur Smith either, right? No. It's like, so Arthur Smith is going, oh yeah, so now let's draft Bijan high, and Bijan's about to go off, and it's like, hold up, so what you got? We have now a Sean McVay disciple. You got a McShanahan offense there, and yet they haven't been able to detonate Bijan on the league. What is going on? So we'll discuss that. We'll talk about that, because that game tonight, that's one of the big, in my opinion, the big storylines in that matchup tonight between the Falcons and the Bucks and Baker Mayfield. We got to talk about Baker Mayfield playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Why is that the case? I'll give you my theory. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast when we return right here, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming right back. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday here on the Rodcast. Thank you guys for joining us. New theme is when my man Patrick always comes up with a creative theme, usually inspired by something, anniversary, pop culture item of some kind, or maybe a birthday. Today's new theme is all about ACL Fest. So my man Patrick is playing jams from the featured artists that will be performing at ACL. So we appreciate him on a new theme Thursday hooking us up. He also hooks us up with the topics for the big fat poll of the day. And right now, it's a good one. I guarantee you're going to like this conversation because it's just celebrating your Longhorn football team. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll today. Which Longhorn has increased their draft stock the most so far this season?
I know. That one's tough. It really is. Between your choices, Gunnar Helm, Jake Majors, Jahdae Barron, Barron Terrell. I haven't voted yet and made my choice, but you can make a really good case for all of them. First of all, Gunnar Helm. I didn't even think, and I gotta, I guess I'll be straight up. I did not even know if Gunnar Helm was gonna be able to be your starting tight end the entire season, right? That was a conversation that Amari Niblack might be an impact player and that he may steal some of the reps and steal some target share. I remember that conversation we were having.
We had the conversation that Juan Davis may be a better all-around tight end because he may be able to get open more. He may be more athletic and be able to get open.
One-on-ones. Yeah. And I'll admit, I did not see Gunnar Helm taking this type of leap. Like we've seen him make athletic plays as a yak ball carrier with the ball in his hands, right? Be able to, what he did. I think that was a great play. I forget what game it was where he just leaps over a defender. I'm like, is that Gunnar Helm leaping over defenders? As a matter of fact, it was in the UTSA game.
Yeah, it was the Quinn Ewers got hurt.
Quinn got hurt. I think that was, I want to say it was a play that Quinn got hurt on. Beautiful play by Gunnar Helm. The Michigan game, of course. You're talking about going up against a team other than Georgia in the regular season. That's the team with the most NFL players on their defense that you'll face all season long. And Gunnar Helm is your leading receiver, goes off in that game, national stage.
Against what they consider to be probably the consensus number one tight end in the class.
Yeah, that's right.
And Gunnar Helm outshowed him.
Yeah. I mean, that, like I said, and right now, he is not necessarily being featured enough. You can make the argument in Texas offense. So I think for me, he's in that conversation, but then Jake Majors, that very same game, you could argue both of those guys in that Michigan game because Jake Majors is going up against the best D tackle duo in college football in Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, guys who will go one will be drafted in the first round, another may be drafted in the second round. They both could be drafted in the first round if they end up testing out well, depending on how things play out. But that's how good that D tackle duo is. Imagine basically Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. Now that's what Michigan has, the equivalent of what Texas had last year. And yet he not only held his own, he handled those guys a couple of times. And that's all NFL scouts need to see. And I did not think of Jake Majors. I thought he, starting early on, he's been a 4-year starter for you. I thought a little undersized. He'll be a good player for you at the college level. I don't know if he has NFL, pedigree. I'm not sure if he's a guy that's going to be drafted into the NFL. Even if he would have played in the league, I'm not sure if I would have said, oh, he's going to be drafted into the league. First of all, because center, not a lot of centers are drafted. I mean, go back and look. It's not a ton of. It's one of those positions where it's just not a lot of centers that are drafted or draftable or draft-worthy players.
Hell, we just saw the Cowboys draft a guard and move him to center.
Guy who had never played center.
Yeah,
they're like, we're gonna move you to center.
We'd rather draft you.
Draft the center. Like, nah.
We'd rather draft you and move you to center than draft the center.
And he's been fantastic, by the way. He's been like one of the best centers in the league as a rookie. But there's not a lot of centers draft. You can say the same thing about tight end. That tight end, because it's not a premium position, you can make the argument that, first of all, it's not a lot of them, a big number of them that are drafted. So to be drafted at that position, you got to be pretty damn good. I think Gunnar Helm's in that conversation now. He'll be drafted. And I think Jake Majors is going to be drafted. I think both of them proved it in that Michigan game. Against, as you talked about, showcasing his skill on the same stage with Colston Loveland, the top tight end coming out in this year's draft, and doing it against a defense that had, 4 or 5 NFL players on it, against an NFL defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale. That was impressive. And I think Jake Majors did the same thing against NFL caliber talent against that D line, which is the strength of that Michigan team. And that may be one of the best D lines, if not the best D line, all right, in college football because of those 2 D tackles. And Jake Majors, like I said, now made himself a whole lot of money and not only handled his own. I thought he actually won more than his fair share against those guys in the interior. And that's what everybody was watching, that matchup. And it was, in my opinion, for Texas, those guys were non-factors. Most of the game, they were non-factors. Got to give Jake Majors a lot of credit for that. So those 2 guys probably, and Jahdae Barron, I'm going to say Jahdae Barron has increased his stock, but maybe not as much as a Jake. Everybody knew he was going to get drafted. Everybody knew Jahdae Barron was going to get drafted.
Yeah.
The middle round, somewhere around there. He could be increasing his draft stock to be a 2nd round pick, somewhere around there, instead of a mid-round pick, a 3rd through 5th round pick.
Yeah.
He could be increasing his draft stock to be a 2nd round pick. I don't know if he's going to be a 1st round pick. The 1st round's for freaks. The 1st round's for freaks.
It says how
Freaks.
he tested the combine, right?
Yes, you gotta prove you're a freak. You gotta prove. Now you're either a freak with your play on the field, all right, or you gotta be a freak physically when they test and measure you, or you can be both. But you gotta be one or the other to hit that 1st round. If you ain't a freak in one of them regards, you're gonna hit the 2nd and the 3rd round. Like it's a freak show. And I don't know if Jahdae Barron is enough of a freak show to be a 1st rounder.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to.
You know what I mean?
You're gonna have to really. I don't even know if there's a team you're gonna play in this regular season that is going to put you up against it. So it would be if you play in Alabama in the SEC title game, they have some guys that you could.
Ryan Williams line up against him.
That would ups you, or somebody you play in the playoffs could get you there. But in the regular season, I don't know if there's that. You basically have to show them the practice film. We talked about yesterday is you have to show them the practice film and go, man, look at these guys that I had to go up against. I went up against 2 first-round wide receivers in Isaiah Bond and Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
I went up against.
That's what Derek Stingley basically did. Derek Stingley had his best year as a freshman, and after that, regressed every year after that. And they just showed the practice film against Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Said these 2 guys are 1st-round talents. Joe Burrow is a 1st-round talent at quarterback. Go watch the one-on-ones. Go watch the team drill in practice. And that was their most of their evaluation was based on that. Now he was playing in the games against still NFL caliber guys and sometimes getting cooked out there, but they looked at the practice film and thought, no, if he can do that every day, then he can do it in the NFL, and that's why they drafted him so high. Jahdae Barron could do that. I mean, that's some of that too. I totally get it, but Derek Stingley also had some freakishness about him. Where think about, he was the best cornerback in college football as a freshman. That's freaky.
Yeah,
that's freaky. That's prodigy. When I talk about prodigies, it's a prodigy thing. You literally came into college football as a true freshman, and people said he's the best cornerback in college football, period, right now. As a true freshman, that's prodigy. That's Kelvin Banks. That's Bijan. You know what I mean? Like that's, I think Arch is in that conversation. I think Colin Simmons may be in that conversation. I don't know if Jahdae Barron's ever been a prodigy. He's not a prodigy. He developed into being an NFL player. Like I said, 1st rounds for freaks. You got to prove that you were a freak at one point. And like I said, Derek Stingley proved he was a freak. I don't know if Jahdae Barron's ever been a freak. He's just a great football investigator, really good high football IQ. I think he can be a Thorpe Award finalist. I think he's a hell of a player. Of course, he's an NFL player. There's no doubt about that. 1st round, I don't know if he's been enough for a freak show. But that's not an insult at all. That's just what that 1st round is about. Like, as the reason Anthony Richardson win the first round was for freaky crazies.
Yeah.
Like I said, is he going to test like that? If he runs a 4.3, okay. All right, maybe he's talking about something. I don't know if he's going to run a low 4.3 as a player. I don't know if I see that straight line speed in this game. So I'm going to say he has increased his draft stock, but it remains to be seen how much. There's something freaky got to get done. That pick he had was nice and freaky, but he's got to do more freaky stuff. And I agree. The point you made, I think, is valid. I don't know if he'll have the opportunity. I don't know if he'll have enough of those.
I mean, it would now if he does, they'd be at the end of the season and they'd be in must-watch games. So he will get the end run. But again, you have to show out in those. And you're also saying you're not necessarily matched up always on the ones. You're going to be matched up sometimes because you've got Manny Muhammad on the other side. So it's, I mean, but it is interesting. I've seen him now get mocked higher and higher, and that's why I put him on this list. He's one of those guys that I think beforehand we said, man, he could be, if he probably would have stayed in the star, he probably is looking at a 4th, 5th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And now you say, well, he's maybe a high second round pick is where you start to look at him now. So it's a pretty big jump. I know we get Jake Majors and Gunnar Helm were probably not on draft boards and now are.
Yeah.
Baron Sorrell is another guy who moved up, but was probably already on draft boards, is a late pick, and now has moved up to a mid-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got someone on the text line brought up Vernon Broughton has now probably gotten onto some more draft boards.
Yeah, that I agree with too. Matter of fact, yeah, I don't know if he was on draft boards. I think he may be now on a few. The scouts probably are keeping up with, especially after the game he just had versus Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. And about Baron Terrell. I think I would put him ahead of Jahdae Barron in terms of how much he's increased his draft stock. But of all these guys, in terms of who's going to get drafted higher, it would be Jahdae. I agree with you because the cornerback, that's more of a premium position, moving out there and showing his versatility. NFL scouts love that. That's the freakiest thing about his game. Now, that's not going to get him drafted in the first round necessarily, but the freakiest thing about his game is that he can play any position in secondary. That's, to me, and I think that is the biggest and the best selling point for him as a unique beast, if you will, in the secondary, is that you can put him anywhere. Put him at star, put him at corner. He's thrived at both. Can he thrive at safety? I think he probably could. I think he could thrive at safety if you need him there too. So that's something I think NFL scouts are going to love about Jahdae Barron's game. But that's the question. Which one of those guys, what Longhorn has increased their draft stock the most so far this season through phase one? All right, let's get to the Horn headlines, and then we'll come back and dive into little Cowboys discussion. I want to talk some Texans as well. We got the NFL game tonight, showdown in the NFC South between the Bucs and the Falcons. We'll get to all that. But before we do, let's get into the Horn headlines with my man Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the second game of the MLB playoffs, we saw three teams advance the divisional round. The Astros got knocked out by the Tigers, losing 5-2 after an eighth-inning rally that saw the bullpen aces Ryan Presley and Josh Hader load the bases and then allow a 3-run hit that the Astros had no answer to. Hunter Brown pitched an excellent game, striking out 9 and 5 in 2/3 innings, but the offense for Houston was once again quiet, ending their ALCS streak at 7. The Royals also advanced, knocking out the Orioles after a 2-1 win, with Bobby Witt Jr. getting the go-ahead RBI in the 6th. And the Padres beat the Braves, ending their run 5-4, scoring all 5 runs in the second inning. The Brewers were the only team to stay alive, getting a 5-3 win over the Mets, hitting 3 home runs in the game to force a Game 3 today. In the NFL, the Buccaneers head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons on Thursday Night Football, in an important matchup for Atlanta if they want to compete for the NFC South. The Bucs have won the NFC South the last 3 years, and the Falcons have not won the division since 2016. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those. A couple of things I want to get to here. We'll get into some NFL topics. Let me tell you first what the magical number is for the Cowboys versus the Steelers, and it's a Justin Fields related stat, but it's a fantastic one. Probably should save it for what the facts with the stats, but we'll do it right now. So Justin Fields, who's playing better, I've talked about this, right? He's learning how to manage a game really well, and in managing a game, you don't have as many of the blockbuster highlight plays, but you also don't have the low light plays. Right? So it's to him, I think it's maturity on his part. And the Steelers are benefiting from it. But how about this stat? The magic number to beat a Justin Fields quarterback team is apparently to 20 points. To get, I would say over 20 points. Like if you can get 21 points, I should say, maybe that's the magic number to get 21. And here's why. Justin Fields, as a starting quarterback now, is 0-22 as a starter when his team allows more than 20 points in a game. 0-22. All you got to do is score more than 20. Get 21, you should be okay. And like I said, that is a freaky, crazy stat. But if you can score more than 20, history would tell you a Justin Fields quarterback team is not going to beat you. And if you can have a lead going into the fourth quarter is also important. He is 2-17 in fourth quarter comeback opportunities or games where he has the ball with a 1-score deficit in the fourth quarter overtime. 2-17. It is actually the worst record among starting quarterbacks in those situations. A fourth quarter comeback opportunity or a game where he has the ball with 1-score deficit in the fourth quarter overtime. As a matter of fact, it just happened. Their last loss is because it was the 17th time in his career that he had the ball in the final 10 minutes of a game, only needing a field goal, and 2 of 17 in those situations. So like I said, he's got the worst win percentage in those situations. Bryce Young's even better. Bryce Young is better in that situation. Every starting quarterback, at least since he became a starter, is better in those situations, fourth quarter comeback situations, than he is. So if you got a lead in the fourth quarter and you can score 21 points, you should be able to beat Justin Fields.
What's crazy about that stat is when we've shown those stats before that Kenny Pickett was actually one of the best at it last season.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett was one of the best. It was weird. He had a small sample size,
but it was
more.
Steelers.
I think it was like tight Mike Tomlin. But
that's
it
what I'm
was
saying.
right.
It's Tomlin. That's what my point is. That
Great point.
Putting Superman and Kryptonite together. See what takes over.
You're right. I'll have to find because you're right. I'll have to find the actual chart. But you're right. Kenny Pickett was the top of that chart. It was like Kenny Pickett, and then it was Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
In terms of the quarterbacks who had the best. Here, I found it. Yep, I just found it. Here it is. Yeah, Kenny Pickett in those situations, he was 6-4 in fourth quarter comeback opportunities, 7-4 in fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive opportunities, but not a competent quarterback. It was free, but like I said, I think that was as we agreed, a Mike Tomlin. It's more of a Mike Tomlin stat than anything.
So if Mike Tomlin was looking at the Justin Fields stat, he goes, "I can fix that. I'm good at that."
Exactly. No, he's like, yeah, you're right. Good point. Mike Tomlin, nobody's been better in that division in the last 5 to 10 years. Now, he's been coaching a long time, too. So who's been around that long? I guess John Harbaugh's actually been around a long time, too.
Yeah.
John's been around. Yeah, he's been around. So, but nobody in that division and no coach. Matter of fact, I don't think a coach in the league has a better record in 1-score games than Mike Tomlin. He's amazing in 1-score games, even without having a real quarterback the last couple of years with the Ben Roethlisberger being gone and them kind of in purgatory, still is amazing in 1-score games. So I think maybe you're right. Oh, you could be on to something, Patrick. Maybe that's why whatever they're doing right now is working. Because for Mike Tomlin, this is something that for him, he knows how to correct it. Or at least his formula to win, that he doesn't require much from his QBs and just needs them to essentially what Justin Fields doing and manage the game, and he's managing the game really well. So there you go. Though, if you can score more than 20 points, you should be okay. Yeah. How about this? Going back to that Kenny Pickett stat. In 24 Kenny Pickett starts, he led the Steelers to more than 20 points just 6 times. 6 times in 24 starts. Yet somehow the Steelers 14-10 with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback. How's that happen?
Dude,
how do you do that?
No one wins more games without scoring than Mike Tomlin.
Right? How you do that in the modern NFL?
Yeah.
So weird.
That's got to be a stat as how many wins do any teams have? We don't have to say coaches, but any teams win. It's like since 2000, or since whenever Mike Tomlin started with the Steelers, of scoring less than 20 points and winning.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
And people keep talking about, how bad of a coach he is. I'm like, man, do you guys understand? Like he's able to win in these just very strange situations. But like I said, he's great at it. He really is. All right. That's my stat about the Cowboys. I told you it's a magic number they got to hit. They can hit that magic number. Things I think should go well. History will tell you things will go well for the Cowboys, at least going up against a Justin Fields quarterback team. Here's the stat that I was looking for. Steelers 9-2 in 1-score games last season. That was the best in the NFL. 34-11 in 1-score games since 2020. That's also the best in the NFL. How? They didn't even have Big Ben for that. Like, how are they doing this? How is Mike Tomlin able to pull this stuff off? It really is. It's remarkable. Like I said, I think he's still a hell of a coach. if they ever get themselves, excuse me, ever get a quarterback, and I don't think Justin Fields is it, but they ever get him a quarterback, I think he can put them back in Super Bowl contention. I think he's that good of a coach, in my opinion. All right. Let's hit. I want to hit the Texans here, but I don't know if we're gonna have enough time. I don't want to run too far over, so we'll save the Texans rant for next segment, and then we'll also combine that with a preview of tonight's game between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Can they activate Bijan Robinson, and what is going on with Bijan? We'll discuss that when we come back on the other side in Rod's Round the Day, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. A couple of items that I want to hit during the rant here and Rod's rant of the day. Starting with the Texans, I also want to get into the matchup tonight between the Falcons and the Bucks a little bit. But let's start with the Texans. I've been harping on this for a while, and you guys know I've been very critical of the Texans and their inability to get themselves in third and manageable. So I've been down the rabbit hole in this specific, looking at this specific topic, and I found some even more troubling numbers. So the Texans are running the football because the Texans right now, just so you know, average their average yards to gain on third down is 9.3 yards. So their average third down is third and 9. That is the worst in the league, actually 31st. I think the Seattle Seahawks may have a longer average third down to gain than 9 yards, but it's bad. So I did some deeper diving to try to figure out, all right, so what's the big issue with the Texans? It's obviously multifactorial. Bobby Slowick's a big part of this. I think I think he's a very promising young offensive mind in the league, but there's definitely some issues with him setting up his play calls, basically being able as a play caller to think 3 or 4 steps ahead. I think he's really good in situationally, like if it's a 3rd and long, dialing up a 3rd and long play for that specific situation. I do think he's good in those situations, even in the red zone. I like him in the red zone, but I don't think he is a chess master yet. Right? It's in chess, you got to be thinking 3, 4 moves ahead. I don't think he does that a lot. I think he's a pretty much a down-to-down play caller. And if you'll notice the great play callers, they're setting up defenses. Sark does it too. They're almost setting up a defense throughout the game. They're setting them up with different concepts. And if you watch the game all the way through and go rewatch it, like I do a lot of times, you realize like, oh, that's what he set that third. They play in the 3rd quarter. He set that up in the 1st quarter. You didn't realize it, like he set it up in the 1st quarter, and they kept running the same concept because they wanted to set up a different play. And they were waiting on them to counter or make the right adjustment. When they made the adjustment, that's when Sark decided to hit him with whatever his dialed up concept was, or the chess move that he was waiting, or anticipating they would make, and then he could counter. Right. And so I just don't think he's a chess master yet, that way he's thinking multiple moves ahead, which is why on early downs, the Texans are so, I be honest, they're poor. They're just a poor 1st down team, period. And then it ultimately hurts them on 3rd down. So here's the other stat I found. The Texans run the ball 60% in the first half. So much is first half. 60% of the time on 2nd and long, because they're so bad on 1st down, they end up in 2nd and long, which ends up inevitably in 3rd and long. So they run the ball 60% of the time on 2nd and long situations. The problem with that is they average 2 yards per carry on 2nd and longs in the first half when they run the football. Their success rate is 29%. The EPA per play is bottom 10, 0.59 EPA per play. So basically they're bottom 10 in all of those metrics on 2nd and long when they try to run the football, because they just can't run it effectively or efficiently. Now that may change when they get healthier in the backfield. Joe Mixon comes back, that could be different. But if you go look at the 1st downs, basically 28% of 1st downs for the Texans lead to 3rd and longs. So damn near 30 of first downs ends up in 3rd and long. They're 20. That's 27th, by the way, in the NFL. And we're talking about first half of games too. So not in the second half. We're talking about the first half of games. That 29% of their 1st downs lead to 3rd and longs. And we talked about the 9.3 yards to gain on 3rd down, which is one of the worst numbers in the league. So they got to do something about 1st down, because all the numbers and metrics say that the Texans on early downs, that they can't figure it out. Now, they throw on early downs. They're great, actually, specifically on play action on early downs, like C.J. Stroud in the last game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. When he threw the ball on early downs, they had a lot of success. They had a 58% success rate when they were throwing the ball on early downs, and they had a 25% success rate when they ran the ball on early downs. So when they put it in CJ Stroud's hands, they're great. When they take it out of his hands, they're one of the worst offenses basically in the NFL. They got to fix that. And that's why they're ultimately in 3rd and long more than any other team in the league, basically. They do that against Buffalo, they're going to lose that game against Buffalo. Once again, I'll say it comes down to 3rd and longs for the Texans. If they're in 3rd and longs, like they were against Minnesota, what I believe it was, they had 14 3rd downs and 13 of them were 3rd and long. They got no shot to beat Buffalo. No chance. No chance at all. And I think the defense actually is going to play pretty well. I think the defense matches up with Buffalo, because they don't have a lot of skill guys to threaten you. You really just got to focus on hero ball with Josh Allen, and that's tough to do because he's playing like an MVP right now. But I don't necessarily think that's a tall task for the Texans defense. I think the tall task is going to be, can that Texans offense stay out of its own way or get out of its own way? Because right now they're their own worst enemy. All the penalties that are putting them behind the chains, and Bobby Slowick on first down. That's, to me, his biggest conundrum. He's got to figure that out. And if he doesn't, the Texans they'll win the division, but they will not go far in the playoffs on the AFC side. They just won't. And it's worse actually than last year. The third and long, which is mind-blowing, because last year it made sense why they were so bad on first down and why they had a lot of penalties and why they were in third and long all the time. Rookie quarterback, the most injured offensive line in the last 20 years. You didn't have all the weapons you have now with Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell had the injury. You just had a lot of injuries. You had inexperience. It all made sense. But this year, why is the offense seems to have regressed in this particular area in third and long? And your offensive line is healthy. You've had more skill talent than you've had in a long time, and some of the best in the NFL. You got the leading receiver in the league right now, Nico Collins. You should be better on first down, and you should be better at getting manageable third downs, and you are not. So I don't know why it's getting worse, man, but they got to figure it out, because if they don't, the Texans are not going to live up to the expectations that everybody has for them.
Yeah, and injuries not helping them right now. Joe Mixon still did not practice on Wednesday. Dameon Pierce still did not practice on Wednesday. Laramie Tunsil now didn't practice on Wednesday. They're having some ankle injuries in that Jaguars game. So little beat up. Tank Dell also, he was a limited participant, but he's still coming back from injury. That's that run game. It's just losing more pieces. You got to, once you get Joe Mixon back, you feel a little bit better, because Joe Mixon, then, you're hoping Dameon Pierce can be an okay change of pace and a guy can get a little bit better in this to get you 3 or 4 yards. But yeah, if it's just Cam Akers going out there, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, they probably just need to throw it on early downs. I know that's putting a lot on CJ Stroud, and you basically have him throwing the ball probably 40 times a game, which is, you don't want that. That's not ideal. I think you may not have a choice in big games like this. Because why would you keep banging your head against a brick wall and put yourself behind the chains and then say, okay, CJ, go save us? You can't keep doing that. So I think they got to figure out something else, and maybe screen game becomes big, or maybe you just decide, you know what, we're going to go with some quick, easy throws early on in the game, a lot of wide receiver screens, a lot of quick hitches, slants, and that'll just be our running game, just quick stuff for CJ until we want to throw the football down the field, because I would not just be handing it off.
And once Mixon comes back, then you can try and go back to it. But without Joe Mixon, since, and again, that hip drop tackle, it takes players out. They're trying to get rid of, and then still happens. But that took him, and he just hasn't been able to come back on the field yet. Yeah,
so until he comes back, like I said, if you really want to beat a team like Buffalo that's playing really well, you might have to put the ball in CJ's hands and give the offense to him and be overly reliant on the passing. Like right now, the Cowboys can't run the ball and the Texans can't run the ball. The two teams that I watch the most can't run the ball really well. And I think it's for different reasons. Texans have talent back there. They just have injuries that are hurting them. And for the Cowboys, they just don't have the bodies. They just don't have the talent overall to be able to have any dynamic element to their running game. All right, let's talk about the game tonight. You got Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. I'm not sure what's going on with Atlanta and their skill positions, because this is also happening with Kyle Pitts. A lot of people are concerned that Kyle Pitts, I think he had 0 catches in their last game.
Yeah.
Raheem Morris was asked about it and said stats are for losers.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, I know stats are for losers, but this guy was a top pick at the tight end position, and he has yet to realize his full potential. Or maybe he does, because if that's the case, then that would be a disappointment. He's got 8 catches on the season for 105 yards and a touchdown. And I think he's getting a target only on 15% of his routes. Yeah. That's not good. He has gone over 26 yards just once this season, and he has not had more than 3 catches in a game since week 13 of last year. He has not had more than 4 catches in a game since week 5 of last season. Kyle Pitts' freaky skill set is just something they can't really find a way to activate. And then the same thing is happening now with Bijan. Like, for some reason, they can't find a way to weaponize Bijan in his offense. He's like 20th in rushing and rushing yards a game. Rushing touchdowns, he's 27th. His longest rush is it's been 19 yards, but that's 46th among running backs. Yards before contact per rush, he's 24th. 1.45 yards after contact per rush, he's 35th. 2.62. Like I said, we know how talented Bijan Robinson is, so I don't think and Bijan has not been hurt. I think he's dealt with some been nicked up a little bit and dealt with some injuries, but I don't think it's taken him out of games. And right now, between Kyle Pitts and between Bijan Robinson, and neither one of those guys realizing their full potential in his offense, I'm a little stupefied. I don't know how that the Atlanta Falcons are able to build an offensive game plan without featuring 2 of their most talented pieces.
But it's not just featuring; it's featuring in a way that works for them. In a way, like it's that concept of, what are you going to call the same plays for Arch as you call for Quinn? If you do, you're probably not the best coach. But if you're going to call the plays to accentuate their strengths, and it feels like Zach Robinson early isn't really playing to his players' strengths, he's playing to the offense he wants to play. And because we saw it with Kirk Cousins. It's like Kirk Cousins is a play action quarterback. Let's not run play action. Why? Why would you sign a guy and then not run the system that works for that guy? Like Zach Robinson, you will be fired by week 8 if this doesn't work.
It's so weird, though, because he's from the McShanahan tree, and the McShanahan tree, it's a staple.
It's
like a conceptual signature. They use a lot of play action. That's why the Shanahan clan drafted Kirk Cousins, because they loved the fact that he was an old school kind of play action quarterback. I don't know what's going on. I got to watch this Atlanta offense. I've not got a chance to watch it.
We'll watch it tonight. I'm
going to get a chance to watch tonight because I'm with you. I don't know what's going on. How the whole point was Arthur Smith is gone. Everybody thought, hallelujah. Yeah. Finally, a McShanahan offense with these weapons. Ooh, look out, NFC South. And now we have the same issues that we had with Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Like, what? That doesn't make sense. That makes no sense at all. So I got to watch this offense because I can't understand how Bijan has not had a better start this season, how Kyle Pitts has basically been a non-factor.
I mean, the offense as a whole, when you put all these weapons in there, the offense as a whole, that just not really be prolific. Just good. I don't even know if they're really good. I think they're an okay offense right now. And Darnell Mooney is becoming the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I haven't looked at Drake London's numbers.
I mean, they're okay, but Moody's had more receptions and more targets than him in some games.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think
we're picking Tampa Bay in this thing, aren't we?
I mean, as of right now, you have to look at it. I still think it's early. You have a very young play caller who is working, calling plays for the first time in his career. He can figure it out and turn it around at some point. But it's so far this season, not watching a ton of it, but looking at it afterwards and reading about it, no one seems to be thrilled with how the game plan is being put together.
Yeah, I agree and to that point, here's some of the numbers on that Falcons offense. Like I said, it's to me, I don't know, when I've looked at the offseason and them bringing in Zach Robinson and started looking at the weapons, I think I was leaning toward the Falcons winning this damn division. Yeah. Because of the offense mostly. Not going to be the case. The Falcons are converting, how about this, guys? 21% fewer third downs than their opponents. That's the worst differential in the league. The Falcons have a touchdown on 13% of their possessions. That's 28th in the league. And 50% of the drives, if you go look at it, take that back. Tampa Bay, how about this? If you go look at overall, when the Atlanta reaches third down, Atlanta has converted 26% of the time, and that's 29th in the league. So situationally, they're not great either. And And I'm leaning Tampa Bay because Baker Mayfield's playing some really good football. Tampa Bay, 4th right now in points per drive without a sack. So when they can protect Baker, they're really good. Problem is, this is something to watch too. They have not protected Baker really well. Actually, I want to say Baker's been sacked like 15 times already. So that is something to watch. Can they protect Baker? But other than that, I think Tampa Bay is a better overall team right now than Atlanta. I'll take Tampa Bay all day, every day in this matchup. They also, if you look at it, Tampa Bay has they lead the NFL with a 61% success rate on first down passing plays. So they throw it early on, and they've leaned on Baker, and Baker's been fantastic for him so far. I said the only question is he's been sacked 15 times in 4 games. And can Atlanta take advantage of that? Because they got some pass pro issues. But other than that, I like what Tampa Bay's doing. It right now, it looks like he and Mike Evans have really good chemistry. And Liam Cohen, who is the new OC for Tampa Bay, remember he was the one that came from Kentucky and from the Kentucky Wildcats at one point. And he also was with Sean McVay for, I think, a year in between that. He's doing a great job of picking up where Dave Canales left off last year with Baker Mayfield. So that regression that some people thought would happen with Baker, not happening at all. He's on pace for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns this season. Now, I don't think he's going to get that, but that's what he's on pace for. Like, he's been playing really well. If you go look at it, if you look at games with at least 2 passing touchdowns since the beginning of last season, Baker Mayfield has got 12 such games, and that's the second most in that time span. Baker's been balling, man. He's second in the NFL right now in passing touchdowns, I believe, and I believe he's 4th in passer rating right now. If you're not paying attention, you should be. Baker may be turning things around for himself. Last year was his best year. He's on pace to have a better year than he did last year as a quarterback. And his story is pretty remarkable that he's been, but I believe this is his 7th different offensive system and offensive play caller that he's had to deal with since he got into the league. And yeah, you got Todd Haley, Todd Monken, the 2 Todds. Then he's with Kevin Stefanski and that Alex Van Pelt's offense. That was different. Ben McAdoo came in to call plays for him. That was in Carolina. Sean McVay was his play caller when he was with the Rams. Then Dave Canales last year, and now Liam Cohen. So that's 7 since when he get into the league, 2018? Was it 2018? Somewhere around there, 2017, 2018 for Baker. So not very long. And even in college, hell, throw Cliff Kingsbury and Lincoln Riley there. So if you include college and you include the NFL, that's what, 12 years for Baker. He's had played in 9 different offenses in 12 years. And honestly, for some guys, I think it hurts their development to be in that many offenses throughout your career, to constantly have to turn over the offensive system. But I do believe if you can, as a quarterback, if you can get through that, if you can overcome, all of that turnover, and you can overcome the instability that it creates for you as a quarterback, I think on the other side of it, I do believe you are better for it, right? That's that old saying, the obstacle is the way. For Baker, the obstacle is the way, right? Him having to master all of these different systems and master all of these different schemes. I think now, 8, 9 years or whatever into his career in the NFL, he's finally now, I think, becoming more of a game executive. To talk about a game manager, I think he may be now becoming kind of a game executive where he can almost he can fall into any system and find a certain comfort zone because he's played in so many of them. And most guys, like Jalen Hurts is like that, right? Jalen Hurts has had, I think, 9 different offensive coordinators and play callers since he's been in college and in the NFL. And I think for him, everybody's got a different journey, so he may be struggling. But for Baker, I think it's made Baker a better quarterback. Most quarterbacks, I think they crumble, and they deteriorate over time, regress over time because of that. but I think he's had a different path. And I think now we're getting the best Baker we've ever seen. And I think some of it's Liam Cohen, but I think some of it is he's been able to master now a lot of different systems, and his overall football acumen and football IQ, I think, have been increased as a result. And he's a better quarterback for it. All right, we come back. We got What the Facts, What the Stats on the other side right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats here. Got a bunch of factoids that I want to share with you guys. How about this one? I thought it was a pretty cool stat. This comes from Sarah Langs about the postseason so far. Teams to score first are 5-3. Teams to out homer opponents are 3-2. Says that 27% of runs have scored via home runs so far in the Major League Baseball postseason. It was 40% in 2024. It was 49% in 2023. So that's a little bit down. How about this? Comes from Cole Kubelik. College football stat for you. Indiana, 5-0 for the first time since 1967. UNLV, 4-0 for the first time since 1978. Duke is 5-0 for the first time since 1994. It says Rutgers is 4-0 for the first time since 2012. Navy is 4-0 for the first time since 2017. Pittsburgh is 4-0 for the first time since 2000. Iowa State, how about that? Cyclones, 4-0 for the first time since 2000. Got some teams having the best start they've had in a really, really long time. How about this in Navy and Army? 4-0 for the first time since 1945. A long time since both of them were actually 4-0 at the same time. The longest, how about this one? Comes from My man at David Hill, he says the longest active streaks of holding opponents to less than 150 yards rushing in a game. Texas with 13 is the longest active streak in the country of holding opponents to less than 150 rushing yards. Remember last year you were basically the best rush defense in the country, and this year you started out really damn good, even without Tavondre Sweat, without Byron Murphy, without a Jalen Ford, some of your key defenders, at least when in regards to stopping the run. And yet Texas picked up right where they left off, even after going up against a team like Michigan, whose strength was a power running team. All right, so a couple of the stats. I guess we got time for this.
I got you one.
Go ahead.
I got you one.
Go ahead.
There's two divisions of football. One division, every team in the division has a plus positive scoring differential, and there's one division where no teams have a positive scoring differential. Can you guess those divisions?
One where everybody has a positive.
Every single team in the division has a positive scoring differential, and one where not one team does.
Okay, but not one team does. Is that the NFC South? Is that the AFC South?
The AFC South has no one. Indy is at 0 right now. They're the best. Yes, Houston's minus 15, Tennessee's minus 11, Jacksonville's minus 49.
Yeah, not surprised by that. Now, everybody's got a positive scoring differential. What division would that be? Ooh, I'm struggling with this.
It's all right. I'll give you. It's NFC.
NFC. No, it's not the North, is it?
It is the NFC North. Everyone in that division. Chicago even has a +2 run score differential in that division. But yeah, Minnesota's plus 57, Detroit's plus 22, Lions. Green Bay is plus 15, and Chicago's +2. In that division.
Okay, yeah.
That is a tough division right now.
Chicago is what I thought. I didn't think Chicago would be a positive, have a positive point differential.
Yeah, they have a +2.
Wow. Okay, yeah. That's a great stat. That is, man, NFC South. The AFC South is just terrible.
The AFC South is awful because the Texans have barely won games and then got destroyed by the Vikings. So they have to win one big to get theirs back. But yeah, the Bears lost by 6 to the Texans. And they lost by 5 to the Colts. So they didn't have big losses. And then they beat the Titans by 7, and they beat the Bears by 6, or beat the Rams by 6. So all their games have been one-score games. So they're right there.
Yeah, that's why the Texans haven't. I want to say they had 3 wins. The Texans have by combined like 12 points, I believe.
Yeah, because they're not pulling away from anybody.
Yeah, and they don't have a win over a good team.
Nope.
I mean, those teams are beating bad teams. They're not good teams at all. No, good stuff there. That was a nice one. Okay. I got one more for you. How about Ashton Jeanty? We've talked about this. Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, and what kind of season he's having. So this is what he's on pace to, like, basically the records that he's on pace to break, or this is the historic pace he's on. He's on pace for 2,535 rushing yards. The current single season record, by the way, is 2,628. That's Barry Sanders in 1988. He's on pace for 39 rushing touchdowns. That would be the current single season record. He's on yards after contact. He's on pace for 1,761 yards after contact. That would be the most in a single season. And he's on pace for 132 forced missed tackles. Bijan Robinson actually had the record in 2022 with 104. And he's going to blow that out of the water, potentially, if he stays healthy. But Ashton Jeanty, he's got 40. Right now, he's already got 44 missed tackles forced on the season. Dude is a beast.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Watching him run. Every highlight play you watch him is just, you're like, oh, you get like 2 of those a season. And he does it like 5 times a game.
That is, I just, where did he come from? I feel like he came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Feel like we hadn't heard anything about this young man, and now he may be the best player in college football. Well, him and Travis Hunter probably are the best players in college football, but either way. And neither one of them will probably win the Heisman because they'll just go to a quarterback. This is like one of those years where everybody believes, like, hey, that the best players in college football are not necessarily quarterbacks, and yet a quarterback's still going to win.
Yeah. Cam Ward getting bailed out. Getting his Heisman hopes bailed out by overturned calls.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know, but that dude is That dude is a monster, man. I'm glad that Texas ain't got to see him. I guess if you do see him, it'll be in the college football playoff game. He may actually be the reason that Boise can make it as a group of 5 or whatever, group of 6 selection, because I don't know if a lot of teams on their level are going to be able to stop that dude.
God, the
All right,
Ashton Janty stats by season are crazy. 2022, 156 carries for 821 yards and 7 touchdowns. 2023, 220 carries for 1,300 yards, 1,347 and 14 touchdowns. 2024, already 82 carries for 845 yards and 13 touchdowns. Already,
so he was a good serviceable back before.
Yeah, he had 5 yards, 5.3 his first year, 6.1 his second. He's now averaging 10.3 yards per carry.
I guess it is a linear trajectory. I mean, he's been
it's a
getting
linear,
better
but
every
that
year.
jump is
that leap. Good Lord. Yeah, somebody should test that dude. I know he's gonna pass the test, but he needs to be tested.
Yeah, he needs to be tested every
PEDs.
10 minutes.
Yeah, he do, man. Sorry, though. That's the ultimate compliment I can give you, Ashton Genty. You should be tested for PEDs, man, because what you're doing seems superhuman.
And if not, they need to draw your blood and you'd see some miracle in there.
Yes, try to synthesize it or something, and we can come up with some miracle cure. Yeah, him and Travis Hunter pretty much. Let's do it with both of them, because both of those dudes are doing some freaky, crazy stuff right now. All right, we come back. We'll get into the disappointing showing from the Astros. They are now going fishing for the season. Their season is over. We'll also dive into the rumors and reports that the Cowboys may be interested in Devontae Adams. We'll dive into that, and we'll go behind the burn orange curtain, talk some Texas football, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host Patrick Davis, the Idillionaire, he's inspired by some pop culture event, maybe an anniversary, maybe a birthday, but he's inspired one way or the other to come up with a new creative theme every Thursday. And today's theme is celebrating ACL coming to town this weekend. ACL starting off this weekend, so he is playing songs that feature different artists in the on the ACL lineup coming up this weekend. So we appreciate Patrick hooking us up there. Also, Patrick hooks us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted at the Horn ATX. You can go check it out for yourself. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll today. Which Longhorn has increased their draft stocks the most so far this season? We gave you 4 options on there. If you want to add another, you can throw it up there on X, or you can text it in 512-447-3776. Before we gave you Gunnar Helm, Jake Majors, Jahdae Barron, and Barron Sorrell, and they're in that order.
They
In
are
the
in
voting,
that order. Yeah.
56% for Gunnar Helm, 25% for Jake Majors, 15% for Jahdae Barron, and 4% for Barron Sorrell.
Yeah. I voted Gunnar Helm too. I mean, he was my top choice. I just didn't have him on a draft board at all. And
Yeah.
now I think a team will draft him. Like we're not making predictions on where these guys are going to get drafted, but I think Gunnar Helm will get drafted. And I did not have him being drafted at the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of people thought he'd be splitting reps a little bit more.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be getting as many targets that he would. And maybe Amari Knobloch will get some of those. But Arwan Davis maybe. But Gunnar Helm has proved me and a lot of other people wrong. He can win one-on-ones. He can separate. Hell, he can even hurdle guys on the field and show athleticism and yak opportunities. Yeah, I feel like that Shaq meme we always talk about, like, hey man, I underestimated your skills. I wasn't aware of your skills, Gunnar Helm, and now I am. He's legit. Yep. And Jake Majors, I think Jake Majors should be second. And both of those guys, I believe we started having these, or at least they started to improve their draft stock, and we started to have these conversations about them after that Michigan game.
Yeah.
For both Gunnar Helm and Jake Majors, they both arguably had the best game of their careers in that game versus Michigan. And that's why I think NFL scouts started to say, well, if they can do that against the talent Michigan has, then you know what? They can, guys might be able to play on Sundays, might be worth a draft pick. I think both of those guys made themselves a lot of money in that Michigan game. And ever since, they've been continuing to establish that consistency, and they haven't disappointed. It looked like that was like a flash in the pan or an outlier. That looked like that was the kind of the catalyst for them now to become, a all conference caliber talent. Now, Gunnar Helm, can he be an all conference caliber tight end? I'm not sure. But Jake Majors has already been SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. As a matter of fact, I think it was after the Michigan game he earned that honor, SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. So we shall see. But I think that's accurate. Those two guys have probably increased their draft stock more than anybody else. All right, that's the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out at the Horn ATX on X. All right, before we get into the disappointing Astros who lost in the postseason to the Detroit Tigers, we'll get to that story here in just a second. Tigers break out the brooms on the Astros, and they're moving on. We'll discuss that. We'll also get into the reports that the Cowboys and other teams could be interested in Devontae Adams, the wide receiver from out of Las Vegas, who has told his team he prefers to be traded. And it looks like the wheels are in motion, and the Raiders are asking for a reasonable draft pick in exchange, only a second-round pick. And because of that, I think a lot of teams are interested. So we'll talk about that story as well. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment and dive into some Texas football conversation. But first, let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the second game of the MLB playoffs, we saw 3 teams advance to the divisional round. The Astros got knocked out by the Tigers, losing 5-2 after an 8th-inning rally that saw the bullpen aces Ryan Presley and Josh Hader load the bases and then allow a 3-run hit that the Astros had no answer to. Hunter Brown pitched an excellent game, striking out 9 in 5 2/3 innings, but the offense for Houston was once again quiet, ending their ALTS streak at 7. The Royals also advanced, knocking out the Orioles after a 2-1 win, with Bobby Witt Jr. getting the go-ahead RBI in the 6th. And the Padres beat the Braves, ending their run 5-4 after scoring all 5 runs in the 2nd inning. The Brewers were the only team to stay alive, getting a 5-3 win over the Mets, hitting 3 home runs in the game to force a Game 3 today. In the NFL, the Buccaneers head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons on Thursday Night Football in an important matchup for Atlanta. They want to compete for the NFC South. The Bucs have won the NFC South the last 3 years, and the Falcons have not won the division since 2016. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yeah, underdogs actually doing pretty good in Major League Baseball, and it's exactly the role that the Detroit Tigers had as an underdog. A lot of folks had the Astros as one of their odds-on favorite to make it back to the World Series. That's not going to be the case for the Astros. They'll be going home and they'll be going fishing, and the Detroit Tigers keeping their postseason playoff hopes alive. And honestly, it was a remarkable job of masterful managing job by AJ Hinch. 7 different pitchers were deployed by the Detroit Tigers. And if I had told you that before that matchup, you'd have thought, man, I think the Astros are definitely going to have the advantage. They got to use 7 different pitchers in that matchup. Not the case. They did a really good job of being able to limit the Astros in both of these games with their pitching. And Detroit proving that the hotter team it can best the better team, because I think the Astros maybe are the better team, but they definitely weren't hotter than these Detroit Tigers.
No, and I mean, we saw it this felt like a team all season that felt like they could flip the switch. We've talked about it. It felt like they could just turn it on whenever they wanted to. They started off just terribly, and that's why they were kind of historic even getting to the playoffs, was that they at some point found it out when they lost that first game to the White Sox. And all of a sudden it turned around from there, and they got to the playoffs. But then at a certain point, they started to relax at the end of the season. Okay, we're going to win the division. And they kind of relaxed, and they go into this series with the Tigers, and they looked relaxed. And they talked to them before, and they go, are you stressed? No, we've been in this situation a bunch before. We're good. And then all of a sudden they get a couple runs, and now it's the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, and now you start to see him start to press a little bit, and you go, you can't play. They can't play 18 innings of baseball and you play 6 and you expect to win. And that's what it felt like the Astros were doing. And then you see the bullpen just fall apart there at the end as well, where they didn't seem to have the urgency, and Hader missed a few pitches early, walked his first batter, and you're pulling guys out and putting Presley in, and you, instead of sticking in that 7, 8, 9 and trying to get there, you put in Abreu a little bit early. You put him in to get that last out. Then you put in Presley to get the last, and you keep trying to push a guy to get the last out in. And it felt like, first of all, Espada was outmanaged, which is not hugely surprising because AJ Hinch is a really good manager.
He is a good manager.
So I'm not going to take it as so much of a shot as Espada, but a compliment to AJ Hinch. But it just felt like the Tigers always felt like they knew what they were doing, and the Astros just were like, oh, we'll get there. We'll figure it out. And then they didn't. And there's something that if the Astros do decide to kind of try and force a rebuild now, or maybe move on from some guys, that it's somewhat fitting poetically that AJ Hinch started the dynasty and then ended the dynasty.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which, because now you look at the Astros, it's Alex Bregman's a free agent. Framber Valdez is a free agent. So your game one starter in the playoffs is a free agent. Your third baseman that has been, probably, probably your leader of at least, cockiness and, energy. He has been that guy at third base for your entire run. He'd be the last pace. You leave, Correa's gone. Springer was gone. That was a big 4 that kind of started it. And you lose them. And then Kyle Tucker is got 1 year left of control before he will become a free agent. So that is a big question of what they do with Kyle Tucker. You've got Yordan Alvarez, so you still got the guy. But the question is, do they try and expedite that rebuild a little bit more? And that'll be the big question going into this offseason for the Astros. But it was disappointing to see 7 straight ALCSs is a great run. Disappointing to see it go out in 2 games in a wild card where you just didn't even look like you really showed up?
No, I don't know. I guess I kind of arrogantly assumed there would be a game 3. I just
Yeah.
oh yeah, the Astros are definitely fine because I kind of believe the switch too. We've seen them, so I believe they'll definitely. This is a win or go home scenario. You'll get the best effort from the Astros, and I don't think you necessarily got the best effort from the Astros.
No, and again, you're supposed to have that 7, 8, 9 locked down. And Presley's had his issues before. Hader had his issues at the beginning of the season, but at the end of the season, they were pretty good. And by most of the season, they were pretty good. And so you thought, okay, if you get that lead, you should be good. And then immediately they give it back and tie the game up. But you still think, okay, well, you can get a run somewhere in here, and you got 7, 8, 9 locked down, and then Presley just didn't have it, and Hader came in and didn't have it, and you can't have your 8 and 9 pit. You basically have 2 closers, and they both didn't have it on a game where you had to have it.
Yep, yeah, and the Detroit Tigers, like I said, they came up clutch when they needed to. And they seem like a hungry team. They're hungry, and that's one thing. The Astros, even though they have the pedigree, they have the DNA, championship level squad. There's no doubt about that. I'm not sure how hungry these Astros were.
No, it didn't seem.
Detroit played like a hungry team. Yeah, they played like a team that wanted it more. And congratulations to them. And I threw the stat out there earlier. The hot team theory, I think, applies here. I don't know how far Detroit's going to go because they're going to face better teams. They play they play Cleveland next, I believe. But the Tigers are the 4th team in history to win a playoff series after being 10 or more games behind of a playoff spot at least 110 games into the season. The other 3 all went on to win the World Series. 2011 Cardinals, 69 Mets, 64 Cardinals. It's teams that not only start to, catch fire, they immediately just go in fuego. And that's kind of what happened with this Detroit Tigers team. So we'll see if they can, flame on, if you will, if they can kind of keep this hot streak going. But that's really, I think that's what the Astros ran into. And as I always have the hot team theory, you run into the hottest team in, that specific sport in the postseason, even if you are the much better team. And the hot team, to me, is sometimes a powerful, it can be a very powerful element. Kind of it can be very intoxicating for a team to be that hot. They can start to believe that, hey man, we can't lose in any situation. Like if we go about, executing in our way, that we can't lose. And that is the powerful element of it, is that the Detroit Tigers guys believe now, especially after beating the Astros. They're like, dude, that team could have won the World Series. That's a good team.
Yeah.
And now they believe. And it happened to the Rangers last year. The Rangers got like that. They got to be the hot team, and this team started believing they could beat everybody on the road. They were like, no, we can do it. We can beat them on the road. We don't care. We don't have to be at home to do it. And like I said, it's powerful when a team starts to believe like that, even if they're going up against a much more stacked roster, which basically will be the Detroit Tigers. That'll be the narrative. That'll be the theme of the postseason from them. They're never going to fit. I mean, they're going to be the underdog pretty much every game they play, right? Every series, I imagine. I don't know. I got to see about the Cleveland one. I think Cleveland won the season series against them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be tough sledding from here out. And now it is just the anyone but the Dodgers or Yankees. Anyone but the Dodgers, Yankees. I mean, anyone else, I'm fine with.
You just don't want the evil empires to rule. Major League Baseball.
Baseball is the worst sport of, if you have a lot of money, we let you do whatever you want.
Yeah,
and
right
so it's
buy everybody's players.
Yeah, it's somewhat frustrating that those two teams can do it, and then they have these gigantic fan bases of fans that are like, well, I grew up a fan. You're like, you grew up because they were good. Like,
that's true.
You didn't grow up in LA. You didn't grow up in New York. You grew up because they were good, and they were on TV because they were good, but they were good because they spent a ton of money because they're on TV. And it's just kind of this self-fulfilling thing that happened. So I get it, and I get that they were your team growing up, but you're not going to get me with this. No, but I rooted for my whole life. You're like, where'd you grow up? You're like, Austin. You should have been a Rangers or an Astros fan. You shouldn't have left
How
the
did you
States.
become a fan of that team?
You shouldn't have left the States. If you're from Texas, you should be a fan of a Texas team. You should not be an LA or a Rangers fan. I get some people, they didn't have a place, a team in their state.
Sometimes it happens as a kid or something. Yeah, but you have an experience or something weird. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, no, I those two teams, it's frustrating that those two teams can consistently compete and always have the best. It's more frustrating that they don't win every single year because clearly they're not the best teams because they don't win every year, even though they're spending double what everybody else spends.
Yeah, they may have the most talent, doesn't make you the best team.
Yes.
Just because you have more talent than everybody else doesn't mean you're a better team than other teams. But that's the Yankees and the Dodgers in a nutshell. It's like, oh, they got more talent than everybody else.
So
but
anyone but them.
A better overall team.
Anyone but them.
I will say the only reason the Dodgers because I want to see Shohei.
I want to see Shohei lose
on
every
the
single
big
year.
stage.
Given that friendly deal, screw him and the Dodgers. I don't want to see them. I'd prefer if they never won a playoff game ever again. I don't like stacking the box that way.
I want to see the best player in baseball in the postseason, which we didn't get a chance to see because he was with the Angels forever.
Because he went to the evil empire.
So I know. I agree with you.
Like I don't mind Aaron Judge as much because he came up with the Yankees, so I don't mind him.
Homegrown.
So you say, okay, I get it, but the fact that you were like, no, I'm gonna go to the evil empire and then I'm gonna give them a hometown this discount where they won't have to pay me till later, so I can try and win and basically rig the system to win.
Yeah,
I don't like it. Don't like it.
I don't like it, but I do want to see it. I don't like it, but I will admit I do want to see it.
I want to see them lose by 50 points every game. I'm a petty person.
I know. We've never seen this caliber, this player of his caliber playing in the playoffs, and I want to see that. He's not going to pitch in the postseason, so you won't get the true Shohei.
No, he can't field or pitch. He can't throw. He can't throw a baseball, but he can hit better than
the hell out of baseball.
Yeah, he can hit the hell out of it.
He can get the hell out of it. He's got like Yordan. It's like Yordan can't run, but he can still hit, so it's good. He's in the lineup, but he can't run, but he can hit. That's all that matters. All right, so there you go. The Astros fall short, and it looks like they're at a crossroads. And what'd you say? What move, in your opinion, is the move that signals to Astros fans that this is indeed a rebuild?
If they move Kyle Tucker,
all in.
If they trade Kyle Tucker, if they get rid of Kyle Tucker, then that one is okay. We're moving on because then Bregman's probably gone. Yep. And then who knows? You may look at trading Hader, even though he just got there. You may try and make some other moves and just basically cut all your costs, try and get some other players, and then say we're going to try and expedite a rebuild. Yeah, but
that form talent.
I don't think you. I think you let Altuve finish there. I don't think you get rid of Yordan because he's just so good. But there's some other players that you might be able to move off of. And Tucker, they just don't want to pay. They don't want to pay the guys. Jim Crane has never been a huge, I want to pay a guy a ton of money to stay. So we'll see.
Yeah, he ain't gonna pay everybody. So especially after that performance, we'll be. I think I don't know if it's going to be exciting, but it'll definitely be intriguing and interesting this offseason for the Astros. Hopefully, it's exciting. That means they're making some big moves that Astros fans are really optimistic about. But it could be that rebuild that Patrick's talking about. All right, let's get into this Davante Adams story just really quickly. I saw this yesterday from Diana Rossini. And I was not surprised because it's the Cowboys. So the Cowboys will they're gonna get in on any headline, and the Davante Adams headline right now is the biggest one in the NFL. And she reported that the Jets and the Cowboys are among many teams. So there are other teams also involved in this, but they're among many teams monitoring the Davante Adams situation. They said the Jets and the Cowboys, among others, have checked in with the Raiders. And she said she's told at this point that Vegas is in no rush to make a move until a team reaches their asking price. But Adams wants to expedite this process because he wants out ASAP. Jane Slater does a great job covering the Cowboys. She says that she said, quote, "I'm told the Cowboys aren't in on Adams." She said, quote, "Don't have the money, and more importantly, draft capital next year more important than ever." She said she asked Mike McCarthy about Davante Adams, and he didn't obviously talk about player acquisition, but he just talked about his respect for him as a player. Calvin Watkins tweeted out that Mike McCarthy said, "Love the guys we have here, the two Jalen's, Turpin, love our practice squad guys." So essentially he's echoing that Jerry Jones famous line, "We like our guys." So they like their guys, and it seems like Cowboys have more pressing issues. They have more glaring deficiencies on their team. Yes, Davante Adams would make them better, but right now they have needs that right now have to be addressed, or they could tank the season for them or derail their season. And I don't think wide receivers hit. Now, I will say We just heard about the Brandon Cooks news, and that's unfortunate. Brandon Cooks will miss Sunday's game against the Steelers because he's developed an infection from a treatment that he had or something like that. So now your wide receiver room is a little thin because you're going to be out Brandon Cooks. But that's not seen as a long-term issue. I believe they think Brandon Cooks will be back as soon as the infection is cleared up, so probably in a couple of weeks. So I don't know if the situation is dire enough for them to trade for a wide receiver. They need to trade for a running back. They need to trade for a run-stopping D tackle. Those are priorities I would put, if I was the Cowboys, ahead of the wide receiver position. So they need something more substantive and not as salacious as this, right? This is a very glamorous move, but I don't know if it addresses their glaring deficiencies that they have right now. So I think it's just the Cowboys trying to steal some headlines, which Jerry is famous for doing. The big issue right now facing the Cowboys is injuries. Michael Parsons is going to be out for a few weeks. DeMarcus Lawrence is on IR. We just talked about Brandon Cooks. He's going to be out for this game versus the Steelers. Versus the Steelers, you're a mass unit. And then in addition to, your defensive end position, you're on your fourth string defensive end, essentially. Because your two starters are Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Sam Williams was a starter he was a second string guy behind them. I don't know who they had as their third string. I guess Marcus Nealon, the young man they just drafted, was probably that other guy. Probably the fourth string or so right
he's
now
because he's playing.
He's fourth. So that's what I'm saying. You're on your fourth string defensive end, and he's now your top edge defender because Sam Williams out, Micah's out, and DeMarcus Lawrence out. That is really concerning to me. That I'm worried about. You're on one side of the field. You pretty much got a fourth string corner out there too. I mean, you think about Trevon Diggs, and you got Duran Bland. Duran Bland's out, and then you got Carson. Remember, Carson was dealing with an injury, Kalen Carson, because he was your second string cornerback behind Duran Bland. So now I forgot who they put out there. I forgot his name, but you got a third string guy out there at corner, pretty much. So that's, to me, that's the concern. And now at receiver, you're about to put out, a second string wide receiver out there too. Injuries have just decimated the Cowboys early on. I'm concerned that that's why I'll probably end up picking the Steelers in this matchup. I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Cowboys. That's going to be, unless I see some good, maybe what he's got, maybe Kalen Carson comes back from the injury and you can get him in there at cornerback. Maybe that's something that you can be optimistic about. But right now, man, the Cowboys look like a mash unit heading into that game versus the Steelers. Do not like that matchup right now for the Cowboys. Especially a team that can run the football. And you missing your two best edge defenders. And if I'm the Steelers, not only can I run now at your tackles, because your tackles are not very good run defenders, but now I can run on the edges too. It's not a good sign. So that's bad news for the Cowboys. We'll see about the Devontae Adams thing. I think right now Devontae Adams is probably leaning toward going to a true contender. And I don't think the Cowboys are that team because they don't want to pay. They technically do have the money, even though they say they don't have the money. They got the cap space. You look at the teams that have the cap space to sign Devontae Adams: Titans, Packers, Jags, Jets, Cardinals, Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, Patriots, Browns, 49ers. And you can always restructure things if you really, really want Devontae Adams. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be that team. So I do think, though, there are some teams that are realistic. Some people keep bringing up the Lions. I've heard the Lions several times. The Commanders now a team that I'm starting to hear more about. Of course, the Jets have come up numerous times. And here is the kicker. And Diana Rossini pointed this out. I just saw her tweet a couple of minutes ago. She said, or maybe this was actually, yes, about 49 minutes ago. She said, keep in mind, money is a big factor for teams looking to trade for Devontae Adams because of what he is owed, $13.5 million for the rest of the season. She said that will drop by $900,000 per week, basically. She points out teams like Buffalo and Kansas City are all monitoring the situation. And she said are more likely to get involved if the Raiders are willing to take on some of the money, right? If they're willing to pay some of the salary. And I saw earlier today on Pro Football Talk, I believe is where I saw it. Pro Football Talk, they said that that is something that the Raiders are considering, paying some of the salary so that they'll get a more attractive trade in exchange for Devontae Adams. So that's about that. So a second round pick is a more than reasonable asking price for an all pro wide receiver. And then on top of that, there's a possibility that it could be even cheaper if the Raiders are willing to pay some of Devontae Adams' remaining salary. And I don't know if the Kansas City's interesting because I brought up Kansas City too. I don't know if they're willing to trade within the division. But we've seen it happen. I mean, we just saw it happen in the NFC East. We've seen it happen before. Asking prices got to be right. So I don't know. We'll see if the Kansas City Chiefs can pull something out. That's one of the first times I've heard an actual insider bring up the Chiefs name. I brought it up because I just think, hell, man, that would be, if I'm Devontae Adams, that would be my dream scenario. I want to go win a Super Bowl. I want to play for the best quarterback in the league. I want to go play for Kansas City and then become a free agent essentially after Kansas City restructures my deal, and I can become a free agent the year after that, after winning the Super Bowl with them or helping them win a Super Bowl. And they need him because Rashee Rice, he's out. It would only make sense that this drops in their lap that they would seriously consider it. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs are in the conversation, guys, and that's scary. The two best, I think, the Bills and the Chiefs are the ones nobody wants Devontae Adams to go to because it turns those teams into almost Super Bowl favorites at that point. I think the Saints and the Jets are interesting just because of the personal tie connection to the quarterbacks. And then you do have the wild cards of the Ravens, the Steelers, I think the Commanders are another team that keeps getting mentioned too. That those are kind of the wild cards. I'd be surprised if it's anybody other than those teams, but it could be. I mean, somebody could come out of nowhere and make them an offer they can't refuse. All right, so there you go. That's the latest on the Devontae Adams trade or the Devontae Adams sweepstakes. We come back. We'll talk Texas football on the other side. They got 6 sacks versus Mississippi State. We'll talk about where those sacks came from and the origin of the sacks that Texas has gotten so far this season. 13 of them. We'll talk about the situations and the circumstances that those sacks have come from and what can lead to Texas getting more of those types of splash plays on defense. We'll get into it right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. All right. Welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain and talk about this Texas defense a little bit. I mean, we've talked about how good this Texas defense is, and I mean, they're by most metrics, you're talking about a top 10 defense easily. In terms of scoring defense, actually, they're top 3 in the country in scoring defense. And they have not truly been tested just yet. I still think, the big test is going to come. Matter of fact, you'll have a really good test, against Oklahoma, just in terms of a dual threat quarterback, because they got a young, dynamic dual threat QB. So that'll be a nice little test. But the overall test in terms of facing a prolific offense, Georgia will be the best, well-rounded offense they face. But even Georgia's not, I don't know if you can call them prolific. I mean, they're like 50 something, I think, in scoring offense. Like that's not, I don't know if that's elite, what I mean? But they have elite personnel, right? They'll have high caliber athletes that can beat you deep, that can, run gap power schemes and run downhill on you if need be. They'll have those elements. So they'll have the ability to beat you in different ways. But that's ways down the line. Let's talk about the Texas defense, though, because even though they may not have been tested yet, they have passed every test they've had so far, and you can categorize them as elite in just all the metrics. But one place where they hadn't really shown that they were a high-level defense was in the category of sacks and pressures. They weren't getting, they were getting pressures, but they weren't translating into sacks. That's been the issue for Texas actually the last 2 years. They've been one of the top teams in the country in creating pressure, just not translating that into sacks. That changed versus Mississippi State. They got 6 sacks in that game versus Mississippi State, almost equaling their season total of 7 sacks going into that game through 4 games. So what happened? How did they end up getting such or how did they end up getting so many sacks, in this game when going into this game, even with teams who were throwing the football, they weren't able to get home. And this team, Mississippi State, ran the football 50 times. So what I observed was, there was a complementary element to them getting these sacks in bunches, and I'm assuming that's because the pass rush is getting better. I think they are becoming more impactful at pass rushing in those situations. But what I noticed was when they forced Mississippi State to abandon their game plan. Their game plan, we know, initially they came out and had the ball for 7+ minutes in the first quarter. They were running the football. They wanted to run the ball on early downs. They wanted to at least stay. If they couldn't stay ahead of the chains, they didn't want to be behind the chains. And that's why they just wanted to be in 3rd and short or 4th and short. If they were in 3rd and medium and 3rd and short and in 4th and short, they were going to go for it. They went for it twice on 4th down on that first drive, just trying to keep the football, but mostly by running the football. And that game plan actually kept them competitive in that game for 3 quarters. But it was only because Texas never separated. So the sacks, they got 6 of them. 4 of those sacks came in the second half. I think 5 of the 6 sacks came at either in the second half or at the end of the first half, like the last 2 minutes of the first half, when Mississippi State was in 2-minute mode. Basically, they were in their 2-minute drill, which means they were throwing the football. Texas had just scored on that 49-yard DeAndre Moore touchdown. And so the game started to look a little different. Remember, before that, it was just, a really tight game. Texas hadn't scored since that first touchdown. And then when that DeAndre Moore touchdown comes up, you get a little bit of separation, but it's still a 1-score game. But that little bit of separation, it did infuse a little desperation into Mississippi State. And because of that, combined situationally with the 2-minute drill, they were throwing the football more. And that's when you started getting home. So you had to have more opportunities to rush the passer and for that to translate into sacks. And they didn't have those opportunities early on against Mississippi State. But when they started to separate, when they stopped, beating themselves with self-inflicted wounds and all the penalties and the turnovers and the fumbles, when Texas started to build that lead, Mississippi State was forced to abandon their game plan. And they started to throw the football. And that's why all of your sacks, not all of them, most of them came in the second half when Mississippi State started to think, all right, we got to throw the football more or we're going to get boat raced out of this game. 4 of your 6 sacks also came on first down. So they were throwing the ball on first down. Remember, they were running the ball exclusively on early downs at the beginning of that game when it was competitive. But as you started to build that lead, as you started to, separate from them, they thought, okay, there's no way we're going to stay in this game by just running the football. Texas made too many effective adjustments. So they started throwing the ball on early downs, and they started throwing it more in the second half. And that's where your sacks came. And 4 of your 6 sacks came on first down, early down passes, which was not what Mississippi State wanted to do. So you forced them into an uncomfortable situation, forced them to abandon their initial game plan. And I think this complementary element is really going to help Texas get some of these multiple sack games or these sacks in bunches in the future. So I started looking at all the sacks Texas had so far this season and see if situationally I could notice a trend. 5 of your 13 sacks have come on first downs, but most of those happened in that Mississippi State game, as I pointed out. Money downs, though, on 3rd and 4th down, 5 of your sacks have come on money downs, right? 3rd and 4th downs. So to me, you want to put teams in more of a situation where you have that everybody throws the ball on 3rd down, right? That's the passing down. If you can get teams to throw the football on early downs, that's going to be your opportunity to get more of these splash plays or get more of those sacks, those pressures translating into sacks. So that's why the lead early is important for Texas recipe for complementary football. They get a lead early, teams get a little bit more desperate, and teams who are desperate to stay in a game or desperate to to make plays in a game, they usually are going to start relying on the pass. They're usually going to, especially early down pass rates. And that's what we saw from Mississippi State. I think that is what you'll see from a lot of teams if Texas can get up big in games, and then they're forced to try to get back in the game by throwing the football and abandon the run. And I just told you, Texas has the longest streak in the country at holding teams under 150 yards rushing, going back to last year. And at this point, they're at, it's like 13 games or something like that where they've held opponents to under 150 yards rushing. So you can take away the run. That's what Sark says they want to do anyway. And then you want to force teams to pass. They always say you got to earn the right to rush the passer. By earning the right, you got to shut down the run. And then you earn the right to rush the passer. So I think that's going to help them. Just Texas, I think, getting up in games, that complementary element to the recipe that Sark wants, it will aid the pass rush, just like it did in the Mississippi State game. Playing Colin Simmons more will aid the pass rush. He's just that good. He's got 4 sacks so far this season. I believe he's got 6 tackles for loss, and he hasn't even made a start yet. He hasn't even started a game yet for you. At one point, I think he will start. I don't even this season. I mean, at one point, I think he may end up cracking through the starting lineup, but they don't necessarily need him to start. He's still got some development that I think he, as a young player, even a prodigy, that he needs to. I think some development that he needs to go through. You got to get better against the run. I think got to get better at containment. Got to get better at sealing the edge and squeezing the edge. But there's no doubt this dude is a spectacular athlete on the edge. And you see that with his BGO. Sometimes he's even getting out of his stance before the tackle does. Like he's upfield before the tackle does. Almost looks like he's offside sometimes because he's moving before the old lineman moves. That is recognition. All right, to be able to recognize that and to be able to have the BGO and the reaction time, which he does, and it aids in that speed rush of his, which is elite. Sark was even asked about it, about his timing and his BGO, his anticipation off the ball. Here's what Sark had to say.
Well, I'd love to say I could coach it. I don't. I think sometimes there's God-given gifts that we all get, and height, weight, speed, arm strength, and the other one happens to be get off. There's an ability to get off the ball. I think early on was figuring out his get off, and he was trying to figure it out too, especially in college football and in high school football. You get so reliant upon the clap and trying to guess the clap, and that's how you jump off sides and different things. But I think he's keying the back tip of the ball. And when that thing's moving, he's rolling, and then he's using his fundamentals and techniques. He's not just rushing into guys. He's not just trying to run around guys. He's using the tools that we've been working on with him, and he's an impactful guy. His ability to rush is one thing, but his ability to make plays even when we drop him in space. For a defensive end to have 7 tackles, That's a lot of tackles. That's not most normal number for him that way. And I do think it is helping. I think it's something that's, Baron Sorrell comes out of the game with 2 sacks, Colton Bosick ends up with a sack. And so now all the different change up rushers that guys we're attacking people with, when Collins there, it's speed. Next, here's Sorrell, here's Burke, and now they're bull rushing you. So I think the multitude of different style of rushers that we have and him providing that speed factor has been huge for us.
Yeah, he definitely provides that speed factor. So him playing more, I think that's going to give you more sacks. I think they should utilize. You guys know I love that NASCAR dime package that we talk about all the time. That is their go-to third down package. Anytime Texas can get a team into a third and long situation, they're going to break out that NASCAR dime. I think it puts all of your havoc players on the field at the same time. You get Colin Simmons on the field. You bump Baron Sorrell inside, so he ends up playing that D tackle position for you. You end up putting Trey Moore out there, even though Trey Moore has not made a lot of splash plays, still one of your best natural pass rushers. You put Vernon Broughton out there. Vernon, it's already been Broughton. He's your best D tackle pass rushing. I thought that'd be Alfred Collins, but turns out Vernon Broughton, at least the coaches believe that he gives them a better push up front at that D tackle position in that package. And then you have DBs, right? You got 6 DBs out there. You move Jahdae Barron inside to the nickel, and you put 6 DBs out there. Probably your deepest position group right now on defense is your defensive backfield. You just have so many different playmakers back there. So you put a lot of speed on the field, and then you put Anthony Hill as that lone linebacker there in the middle, and then you can help put him on the edge, or you can mug the B gap with him. You just have so many different ways to be versatile with that NASCAR dime package. So I love it. And Texas has been really good in that package, by the way. And 5 of their sacks have actually come in that NASCAR dime. Think about it, they don't play that NASCAR dime very often. And yet, if you look at the amount of splash plays, havoc plays, I believe they have 9 havoc plays overall out of that NASCAR dime or that 3 high safety looking. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. They probably they use them together. So I think Johnny Nanson's exotic looks will also help you get more sacks. I think he's going to throw out a lot more exotic looks. Remember the Mississippi State game, he threw out the look where Trey Moore and Colin Simmons, they would mug the B gap, where he basically would have either Alfred Collins or Vernon Broughton or the D tackles. They would be playing the edges, and he would have the edges inside mugging the B gap. Sometimes they would spy, sometimes they would drop, sometimes they would rush. And that is a new look I hadn't seen. So Jay Nanson's got something up his sleeve every week. And I think that also will end up, paying off. And I think that'll also end up leading and translating to more sacks as you confuse opposing quarterbacks and you situationally can put yourself in a situation where they have to pass, predictable passing situations by your opponents. All right, we come back. We'll get into off the record on the other side. We'll get into some stories from the sports world, beyond the sports world. Got some audio we're going to play for you. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis and Mike Tom Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Mm. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off of the record conversation. Shout out to my man CB at Chris GB00 2000. Yeah, he always does a great job sending me stories and also let me know about some of these special anniversaries in pop culture. Forgot all about this one. 29 years ago today. How about this one? Running back, or now late running back for the NFL, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty. Found not guilty in the slayings of ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Yep. Do you remember where you were? I remember where I was.
I don't think I do. I was, because
You don't think you remember
29
you
years
were?
ago I was 11.
Oh man. Well, I'm a little older, so I remember.
Yeah.
I was like
so
a teenager then, so it was.
Yeah, I remember. I
yeah.
remember where I was for the chase.
Oh yeah, because you was probably watching basketball.
I was watching basketball.
So
I remember
that's what happened. It was the finals,
Yes,
right?
it was the finals.
And I remember the Rockets were playing.
Yes.
So I remember that too. I remember like, oh,
And
what the hell,
I
man?
was at my cousin's
Yeah.
place in Houston. I was at
Mhm.
my cousin's house in
Oh
Houston.
yeah,
So we were watching,
of course y'all was watching. Yeah,
so we were
no doubt.
watching the finals. So I remember that.
Yes,
but I
that,
don't
I
remember.
that too.
I don't remember the verdict where I was at. So which probably means I was like at home. So it wasn't.
You probably was at home.
So
Yeah,
it doesn't.
you
It
probably
doesn't
was at
stick out. You're just like, oh, that happened.
Man, I just remember all of it. It was just so surreal. It really was just crazy and surreal. Like I remember like teachers turning it on in school, like the trial.
Yeah.
Because remember, it was like one of the first trials to be televised.
Yeah.
Like that. Like it was one of the first ones. And I remember teachers like, you know what? We're turning on the OJ trial. Y'all need to sit here and do some work. And like really, we just sit there and watch the OJ trial. Like it was wild like that. And I remember the verdict and how everybody reacted. Ooh, that's still kind of gives me chills the way our reaction to it as a whole. Like everybody had their, and it was kind of a shameful reaction for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
For on both sides of it. But yeah, man, that was wild.
No, that probably was one of the first times in my life that I had the reaction that was like, oh wow. And then like 2 hours later, you're like, and all these things are happening. You're like, oh, well, I guess my reaction was a bit understated.
Yes. Oh man. It like I said, and it was before social media. So I remember people having to gather around TVs to watch it.
Yeah.
Like people like, oh, you got it on. Like I think that was back in that day. It's like, oh no, we got to get people like literally gathering around like in stores and like different places so they can like there was actually video like news footage of people gathering around television sets and watching the verdict. Amazing. They called it the trial of the century. It was in that conversation. It was definitely in that conversation. All right, so there you go.
Somewhat responsible for the Kardashians.
Oh yeah. Rob, yeah, you're right. The dad. He was one of the original lawyers before he got the dream team together.
Yeah.
I think he was the one that suggested, you need to go get a dream team and you need to go get Johnny Cochran.
Yeah. Partially to blame for all of the world's problems because of Kardashians.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. No, it's wild. And then have you ever heard like, I don't know, we're gonna have to get into this later, like the connection between like the OJ trial and like the Menendez brothers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've heard stuff about that. Where they got that there's that new series.
That Menendez brothers series. It's on Netflix right now, which is a whole nother type of sick, demented story that we could get into that kind of took over the country for a while, took over the headlines. But yeah, I'll get into that next. We can get to that next hour since we're talking about this a little bit. But there is a connection between like the Menendez brothers and OJ. Just weird, man. The OJ thing. The reason that it got even crazier is basically because OJ he basically acted guilty. Afterwards, he basically acted guilty. He acted like a guilty person afterwards. And anybody that thought like, oh man, OJ, maybe they framed him or something like that. I think most of the country has now, come to the conclusion that, OJ did it, but Johnny Cochran just got him off. And it was right at the beginning of DNA, like when DNA became like the science that we now, believe it to be and that we have total confidence in. People didn't know about it then. And it was almost like Johnny Cochran did a great job of making it sound like it was some voodoo science.
Yeah. No, and
now we know like, it's actual science.
It's also crazy that there's like people probably late 20s now, maybe, is like the cutoff of people who then are like, no, I grew up, OJ was in jail. So like, how is he innocent? Because he was in jail. Like, oh no, that was later.
That's supposed to. That's about no other stuff. Remember, he didn't write the book, but I think somebody co-wrote it. What if I did it?
Yeah,
like, that was a real thing.
No, it was a book that he was going to put out, and there was massive backlash, and so they didn't put it out. And then later they did put it out, but I think all the money went to the Goldman family.
Yeah, it literally, the dude participated in co-writing a book called "What If I Did It."
Yes,
it's like, oh, this dude is he's a sociopath. We didn't realize it. It was like,
it's a great sketch from Mad TV, one of the few great Mad TV sketches of Orlando Jordan doing the bloopers of the OJ didn't do it like videotape. And it's like it's him like walking, and then he's like, and then they said I bumped my head on this air conditioning. I've lived in this place, and he's talking the whole way, and he turns around and he runs into the air conditioner and drops a glove, and just it's a great sketch.
It is. No, it is, but it's just like that story, man, is so wild. The chase was like one of the craziest parts of it too.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in the back of the car. What happened to AC? Anybody know what happened to AC Collins? Where's AC Collins?
He don't want you to know. He don't want you to know.
He disappeared like right after that trial. I don't know, probably before the trial was even done. We had heard nothing from AC. Guy drove the white Bronco for him. Think about how close you have to be. Do you have anybody in your life? I always said, do you have anybody in your life that you would drive the white Bronco for? The police chasing them. They're been charged with murder of their ex-wife and murder of somebody else. And you were like, nah, man, you know what? Get in the back. We just gonna drive down the freeway, man, until we figure this out. Like, they didn't even have a plan. Remember that they were going like to like her gravesite, and he was gonna commit suicide or something crazy. That's what they were saying, because he had a gun in the back of the car. And then we learned later that he was like watching. Wasn't he watching a game or something? Did we learn that?
I don't know.
Did we learn that OJ was? No, I swear there was a story about this. I swear that, and now I got to go find it. All right, now we got to go to break so I can go find my OJ stories. I swear there was a story that was told. It was actually told by one of the NBA announcers. I'm surprised you don't remember this. I want to say it was. Okay, I got to go find it now. I'm not like misremembering this. Like, literally, there's a story about OJ and like him watching like I don't know, basically keeping up with like the game at the time. Like,
because it was like TV in the Bronco, or
not a TV, but like be a radio or something. I swear it is. I swear. Well, I'll get it. I'll find the audio for you. I promise you.
All right.
We'll do that when we come back. I'm gonna send it to Patrick, so y'all don't think I'm crazy. All right, we come back. We'll get into other things other than talking about OJ a little bit too much. We'll talk about NFL news, sounds and nuggets. Talk about the Cowboys. We'll talk about the Texans. There's a magic number for the Cowboys to beat the Steelers. We'll tell you what that magic number is. And for the Texans, well, they need to just stay out of this number. All right, third and this number. We'll get into that on the other side. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Bear is coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and that's when Patrick, the Ideallionaire, my co-host, they plays jams that are fit a certain theme, a creative theme that he comes up with, and that theme is usually inspired by some pop culture event, a birthday, an anniversary of some kind. And today's new theme Thursday is all about ACL Fest, which starts up this weekend. So all of the artists that you are listening to are artists that are featured on the ACL lineup coming up this weekend. So we appreciate Patrick cooking us up there. We also appreciate Patrick coming up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the Day. Patrick, what is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the Day?
Big Fat Poll of the Day today. Which Longhorn has increased their draft stock the most so far this season? We gave you a few options. Gunnar Helm, Jake Majors, Jahdae Barron, and Barron Sorrell. Right now, that is the order they're in as well. Gunnar Helm at 60% of the vote right now, 23% for Jake Majors, 12% for Jahdae Barron, and 5% for Barron Sorrell.
Nice. Like that. All right. Yeah, I mean, Gunnar Helm getting love. He should. Yeah, I would say Gunnar Helm was my selection as well. 60% of you now saying Gunnar Helm has improved his draft stock the most. I agree with you. I think I keep bringing up that that Shaquille O'Neal graphic, that meme. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game. That's all of us to Gunnar Helm. Like, we just didn't know. I think we all thought after JT Sanders, I don't know if he's going to be able to, fill in those shoes. And I don't know if Texas will have a dynamic, presence at tight end. Maybe Amari Knoblack can be that. Maybe they'll moneyball it. No need for none of that. I think Gunnar Helm's he's been more than serviceable. As a matter of fact, he's been one of the better tight ends in the country and showing athleticism, being able to hurdle guys in the open field, running away from guys with yak opportunities. He's showing the ability to beat one-on-one coverage. I'll admit I was wrong about Gunnar Helm. Happy to be wrong about Gunnar Helm and happy to eat that crow. Okay, so I'm not going to eat the crow about the Stan Van Gundy thing because I was right. I was right about that. I don't remember this.
No, I believe it's Jeff Van Gundy, right?
Is it Jeff Van Gundy? Okay, I know it was a Van
Jeff
Gundy.
Van Gundy.
Okay, and he was telling the story, I believe, about the finals that were taking place between the Rockets and the Knicks. I think he was on the Knicks staff, I guess, at the time, and he was telling the story about. I think he was telling a story about that time, but then he was telling a story about Pat Riley, who apparently, we were just talking about AC Collins and where AC Collins was because he drove the white Bronco, and he tells us about Pat Riley having an interaction with AC Collins, and then AC Collins telling him a story. So here's the audio because I went and found it on YouTube just to make sure that I wasn't losing my damn mind. But here is him telling the story about why they were driving so slow in the white Bronco.
Saturday, 9 Eastern on ABC. It's the much anticipated part one of OJ Made in America. Critically acclaimed 5-part 30 for 30 documentary event. Not just the OJ Simpson story, but one about race, celebrity, violence, and the criminal justice system. OJ Made in America premiering Saturday at 9 Eastern on ABC.
Mike, I'm always reminded of when I was an assistant with the Knicks in '94, the OJ chase took place in Game 5.
Game 5 of the finals between the Rockets and the Knicks. As Green blocked the foul from behind.
And we ended up losing to the Rockets. That summer, Pat Riley always went back out to L.A. He had a house there. And he ran into the driver of the car, AC Collins, at a car wash. And they both were getting their cars detailed. And AC Collins knew Coach Riley peripherally, waved him over, and proceeded to tell him the story of why they were driving so slow was OJ wanted to hear the end of the game on the radio before he pulled in. And when Coach Riley told us that story, I was like mesmerized by what really goes on. Like, I could just see him having the gun to his head saying, turn up the radio, AC, so I can hear the last few minutes.
That is incredible.
It is.
That was a bizarre night at Madison Square Garden.
Sociopath. He was being chased by the police charged with murdering his wife, his ex-wife, and her boyfriend, and he's in the car with a gun, and the nation is following this story, all right? And they're helicopters surrounding his home, and then there are police cars surrounding his home. You got people that are flanking the sides of the road and the freeways, and some with posters saying "Go OJ." Some people saying "F you OJ, you son of a." And this dude is in the car telling AC, "Hey dog, drive slow, man. I'm trying to hit the rest of this game." No, sociopath. As I say, afterwards, all the stuff basically led us to believe, like, oh, that dude, he's probably, like I said, I always said he was found out guilty, didn't make him innocent. That man, that's why you got to give Johnny Cochran a lot of props. I don't know if, you got to put him up there with some of the greatest lawyers in the history of American, the American legal system, like, period. Because how the hell, looking back in retrospect, I don't know how the hell OJ got off on.
You got a Seinfeld character though, so.
That's true. Johnny Cochran. What's his name?
Is it Johnny Childs or Jimmy Childs or something like that?
It is Jackie Childs. Jackie Childs.
It's Jackie Childs.
Yeah, that is good. You're right. Oh, and here's the Menendez brothers tie. They had when OJ was finally arrested after the Bronco chase, he was in the cell next to the Menendez brothers. Next to Eric. It was true that Eric Menendez and OJ were in neighboring cells, like right after he got arrested. That's like the two biggest stories in the country at that time. Menendez brothers, was it patricide, killing their own parents, and then OJ, and then they both were in the cell together. Like I didn't say it, but in the jail together, neighboring cells. I knew that was a Menendez connection. I knew there was a weird sports connection. That Van Gundy story is just. It's troubling. It's entertaining and compelling, but it's troubling too. I mean, think about his mindset. After everything going on, he's like, "Man, turn that up, man, and slow down. I'm trying to hear the rest of the game."
No,
it's
that's
like,
that one. See, that's when you say the friend that not only are you pick up and drive, but they pick up and drive, and he's like, "I got a gun." You're like, "Oh man, why do you bring a gun with this?" And then he's like, "Turn on the game." You're like, "No, sir, no, sir. Do you know how much trouble you were getting me in right now? Now also listening to the game."
Listen to the game. It's like, I remember. Oh man, I just can't. Because at one time they had AC on the phone. Remember, AC got on the phone.
You know who I am.
Yeah, you know who I am. You know I am. He was upset. Like, hey man, y'all keep playing these games with me. What a crazy, surreal time. Yeah, and I always said my theory. Everybody's got a lot of theories on this. Because there's some crazy conspiracy theories about the OJ, the murder. That if he didn't do it, who did it? There are some people that believe like it was like his son.
Yeah.
That's
it's the only other
matched.
it's the only other logic like when
and that's why he seemed so guilty, and that's why he was willing to just take it. He was like, no, I'll deal with it with my son. I'll deal with it because he does have a son like from his first marriage. Initially. So that was one of the crazy theories. My theory is that this was all swinging gone wrong. They were heavy in the swing because remember Marcus Allen was like allegedly, there was some rumors that he and Nicole. That she got on with Marcus Allen too. And the Kardashians, there was Rob Kardashian and then, and his wife. I think at the time they could have been into it. There's a couple of real housewives that claim, you got to go read their books, but they claim that they were really close to the family. So I think it was swinging going wrong. I think they started violating the rules of swinging. I think they were swinging a lot and then they started banging separately, and I think OJ kind of lost it. That was one of my theories. Yeah. They kind of lost it in that way, and then that's when the relationship went all types of wrong. But then that's when because OJ just wanted to assert his dominance over Nicole, and I think because think about even the guy living. Remember there was a guy Kato Kalin that was like living with OJ. You remember like it was just so
in
weird.
The guest house. Yeah,
you just living in the guest like hold up, you just living in the guest house kicking it like that for what? Like nah, just kick it out there, man.
Because there was a whole day. It's like we went and got McDonald's and companies were getting dragged into it. And they were like, all right, I know no publicity is bad publicity, but could y'all take my name out your mouth, please?
That was a weird, surreal time in American history. It really was. Anyway, that's enough about the OJ trial. It's still fascinating. You can still today bring up stuff about the OJ trial, and it's just as compelling as it was back then. All right. Let's get into before we do that, let's get into the Cowboys a little bit. I'll tell you about the magic number for the Cowboys and beating the Steelers. I'll tell you about some more research that I've done about the biggest, most pressing issue for the Texans. We'll dive into that. But before we do, let's first get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the second game of the MLB playoffs, we saw 3 teams advance to the divisional round. The Astros got knocked out by the Tigers, losing 5-2 after an 8th-inning rally that saw the bullpen aces Ryan Presley and Josh Hader load the bases and then allow a 3-run hit that the Astros had no answer to. Hunter Brown pitched an excellent game, striking out 9 and 5 2/3 innings, but the offense for Houston was once again quiet, ending their ALCS streak at 7. The Royals also advanced, knocking out the Orioles after a 2-1 win, with Bobby Witt Jr. getting the go-ahead RBI in the 6th. And the Padres beat the Braves, ending their run 5-4, all 5 runs in the second inning. The Brewers were the only team to stay alive, getting a 5-3 win over the Mets, hitting 3 home runs in the game to force a Game 3 today. In the NFL, the Buccaneers head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons on Thursday Night Football in an important matchup for Atlanta if they want to compete for the NFC South. The Bucs have won the NFC South the last 3 years, and the Falcons have not won the division since 2016. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Oh, yeah. So I forgot the connection. I'll say, so Marcus Allen, he repeatedly denied an affair with Nicole Brown Simpson, but was accused of having an affair with her by multiple people, including Faye Resnick, who was one of the close friends of Nicole Brown Simpson. She claimed it in a book that she wrote, a tell-all book. And former NFL agent claimed it, who once represented OJ and Marcus, Mike Gilbert. He claimed it in the documentary OJ Made in America that Nicole and Marcus Allen had some extramarital relationship happening. And I believe Marcus Allen was married to Catherine Edwards in 1993 at the time, apparently. And matter of fact, she was she became a Real Housewife later on, if I'm not mistaken. That's how kind of this stuff started coming out. And so a lot of people believe that OJ, that from that point on was kind of triggered. Like he just lost it. That was like one of his best friends in the world, former teammate, started banging his wife, allegedly. And then that's when he was always a horrible, deplorable person. But in terms of the abuse, some people believe it escalated around that time to like a violent level. Yeah. And so, not saying that's the reason, but that's some of the. I don't know. I went deep down the rabbit hole of the OJ stuff years ago, and just I'm telling you, I went down the rabbit. And I could not stop. So I found all this type of information, and it's useless. So I'm glad today we can actually throw it out there. Thank you, CB, for reminding me of the anniversary. All right, let's get some more useful information to you, except for just random facts about OJ. How about this one? I came up with this. I didn't come up with this stat, but I found this stat, I should say, more than anything. Here's the magic number for the Cowboys this weekend in facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there are 2 stats here, or 2 trends that I think could be really advantageous to the Cowboys in this matchup. First of all, the Cowboys have to score 21 points. They have to score at least 21 points. Why? This is why it's important. Because Justin Fields, as a starting quarterback, when his team allows more than 20 points in a game, he is 0-22 as a starter. 0-22 as a starter when his team allows more than 20 points. You score 21, history would suggest that a Justin Fields quarterback team cannot overcome that deficit, overcome a 20-plus point lead, a 20-plus point game by their opponent when Justin Fields is the quarterback, because maybe he doesn't manage the game well enough so that you can score more than 3 touchdowns. I'm not sure exactly what is the origin of that trend. I haven't done a deep dive into it, but it's still a really mind-blowing stat. Also, if you, let's say, score more than 20, so score at least 21, and make sure you're leading going into the fourth quarter. Why is that important? Because Justin Fields has the worst win percentage of any starting quarterback in the league when he has a fourth quarter comeback opportunity. A fourth quarter comeback opportunity is exactly as it is stated, right? Self-explanatory. Or a game where he has the ball with a 1-score deficit in the fourth quarter overtime. So in that situation, Bryce Young is even better. Bryce Young has won 20% of his fourth quarter comeback opportunities, and that guy just got benched. And Justin Fields has won 10% of his fourth quarter comeback opportunities. If you combine fourth quarter comeback opportunities and game-winning drive opportunities, he's only at 19% win percentage. Bryce Young is still better. There is nobody worse in the NFL at fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives than Justin Fields. So put him in that situation, make sure you score 21 points. History would suggest you got a really good chance to win. He's 2 of 17 in fourth quarter comeback opportunities. And that is, like I said, the worst win percentage of any quarterback starting right now in the league. So that's how the Cowboys are going to do it. That's a different discussion out there. They can't really run the football. They got injuries to Brandon Cooks. That's going to be something that they have to deal with and find some way to work around. I'm concerned about whether they can contain a quarterback like Justin Fields with both defensive ends out, with no Micah and no DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm a little concerned that Justin Fields may decide, and I think the Steelers would smartly probably decide, we're going to let him run a little bit, especially get out on the edge, stress that Cowboys defense some. So that would be my concern without your best edge defenders in there going up against Justin Fields. But like I said, those are your magic numbers. There you go. Figure it out. And like I said, I don't see how the Cowboys, I would be really impressed. I mean, I would be blown away if the Cowboys win this game versus the Steelers, considering now what's being reported about the injuries. No Brandon Cooks, no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Micah Parsons. The running game is subpar, and in playing the Steelers, who have a defensive culture, and Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach, and they got Justin Fields playing the best football we've seen Justin Fields play. We haven't ever seen a Justin Fields look this good. And right now, it's just not looking good for the Cowboys in this situation. The injury bug is it's killing the Cowboys, man. Debilitating right now for that roster. So we'll talk more about it. We'll break it down, but that's a couple of factoids that I found for Cowboys fans out there. Let's talk about the Texans for a second, because we got some time. Then we'll break down the game tonight, because I got the Falcons and the Bucks. We'll break down that matchup coming up when we get into Raj Round the Day. But let's talk about the Texans. I've been on the Texans about their third and long issues, because they are arguably the worst team in the NFL at managing third downs. They end up in third and unmanageable way too often. 9.3 yards to gain actually is their average distance to gain on third down. I saw Sharp Football say that was the worst. I saw 33, the 33rd, which is an NFL website that follows and tracks the NFL. They have the Texans as the 31st worst, or at least the second worst, I should say. 31st ranked team in average yards to gain on third down. So either way you look at it, they're bad. They're one of the worst. And it's because of what they do or what they cannot do and what they can't execute on first down. This is a Bobby Slowick issue, and he's got to fix it soon. And it's also a D'Amico Ryans issue, and he needs to fix it because it's multifactorial. I think it's the running game. It's a big part of it. And the penalties are a big part of it. Not being disciplined, and Bobby Slowick's lack of innovation, lack of creativity, lack of the lack of an identity, I should say, on early downs, maybe also more the problem. I think he's a really talented offensive play caller. I think where he fails or where he has shortcomings is the chess master aspect of being a play caller. And what I mean by that is being able to think 3 or 4 plays ahead. And sometimes when I'm watching film on really good offensive minds and very creative offensive minds, I'm watching their games, and sometimes it happens with Sark, where you can see plays later on in the game, maybe third, fourth quarter of the game, that were being set up in the first and second quarter of the game. You'll see plays on certain drives that were set up by a play earlier in that drive, where coaches are almost troubleshooting to force their opponent into adjusting a certain way or force them into a certain move, like you would do in chess, right? You force somebody into a move, but you have to be thinking multiple moves ahead to do that. You can't be coaching in the moment every time. You have to be thinking multiple. I don't think he thinks multiple moves ahead. And I think it gets them in trouble on third and long, because then they end up with CJ save me. And that's really what happens on third and long. CJ saved me. He does a good job of dialing up really creative concepts and effective concepts on third and long. But you in third and long way too often. And you're not going to beat good teams that way. This is why they've only beaten bad teams. You ain't going to beat good teams like that. You're not going to beat Buffalo by averaging third and 9+ yards to game. Not going to do it. That's why Minnesota was able to manhandle you, because 14 third downs and 13 of them were third and long. More third and 10+ yards a game than any team in the NFL in a game since 2022. You ain't going to win like that. And I found this, and part of it is, if I look at first half first down runs. So if you look at first half first down runs, they're running the ball 60% of the time. And it would be fine if they were good at it. Problem is, they're not really good at running the ball right now on those early downs. On second and long situations, which is what they end up in, because they're terrible at running the football on early downs. So end up in a second and long, leading to a third and long. Their average 2 yards per carry on second and long in the first half. So let's say they get 3 yards on first down running the football. And they get 2 yards. All right. I say they get, 1 yard or 2 yards on first down. And they get another 2 yards on second down. Still end up with third and medium. And a lot of times you end up at third and long because they're so bad on first down. They have a 29% success rate running the ball on second and long with a negative EPA per play. Negative EPA per play. Actually, negative 0.59 EPA per play. So we're actually really bad. And those are all bottom 10 metrics in the NFL. So basically, right now, they're a bottom 10 team when they run the ball on early downs. And that's part of the problem. 28% of their first downs are so bad they lead to third and long. 20, and that's only in the first half. But if you look at the entire game, 29% of their first downs end up leading to third and long. And that's 27th in the league. So that's what the Texans got to figure out. The more research I do about their third down issues, it leads me back to how poor they are on first and second down and early downs. Pre-snap penalties, big part of it too. But Bobby Slowick, this is his area of growth. He might not be such a hot commodity with head coaching vacancies if he doesn't figure this issue out, because he's losing some of his luster right now.
I think that this was something that we saw with Sark in year 1 and 2 a little bit, and he's improved on it a lot. When you talk about that, game plan to set something up, he always wanted to do that. He always tried to do that. But then if something went wrong, he would still just implement the plan like the first thing went right.
Yeah.
So he would still go in and go, well, okay, we're going to try and run the ball early and throw the ball late. And then they wouldn't run the ball early. And then late, Quinn Ewers would be taking sacks because he's like, well, of course now they know you're throwing. Like you have to adjust in the game by going. And I think Bobby Slowick is sometimes just having to not have – he doesn't have that second plan. He doesn't have plan B ready. And Sark now knows, okay, on first down, if I get this, and you'll hear him talk about it, he goes, if it's 3rd and 3, I have this. If it's 3rd and 6, I have this. And he just has so many more contingencies ready that Bobby Slowick feels like he calls first and second down, and then third down is let's figure it out. And he doesn't necessarily go, well, on second down, if I get 2 yards, I'm going to do this. And second down, because I really need to pick up a couple yards and not put us in a third and long. He goes, pass first down, run second down. And no matter what happens on first down, he's running on second down. And you have to kind of just go, okay, well, we had an incompletion on first down. I can't run for 2 yards now because this run play, the odds of him running for 6 is pretty off on this. So even if he gets 4, it's still 3rd and 6, which is not really where I want it to be. So we need to run a pass play where I can get 5-6 yards and put him in a good third down. And I just think he hasn't gotten to there where he's got the plan B in his head. We'll run on first down. That's 4 yards. Then we'll make this pass play, and then it'll be a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 6 because check down is here, or it's a first down. And, you run for 2 and pass an incompletion, and it's 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 8, and you go, oh, crap, no, we're supposed to be 3rd and 2 or first down.
Yep.
Like that was the 2 scenarios I had. I didn't have 3rd and 8. So now, all right, now I got to call this. All right, CJ, bail us out.
That does sound like him. Honestly, that's a great. I love that that comparison to Sark too, because I think you're right about that. Sark does have like 3 options available, it seems like, in his head based on the outcome of the play. And maybe right about that, Bobby Sloak. Maybe Bobby Sloak doesn't have contingency plans. Maybe he's not thinking about if we gain 3 yards, if we gain 6 yards, or if we get another first down. Those are the different contingency plans I'm going to have. If we get only 3 yards, okay, I know what I'm going to do, or 3 yards or less. Or if we get 5 yards or a little bit more, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Or if we end up getting a chunk yardage play, I know exactly what my next play is going to be. And that's the chess master aspect that we're referring to. So I agree with you. I think you're right. The way you described it, that's the way I see it. That maybe he just doesn't have the contingency plans available, which means he ends up, like coaching on the fly a little bit too often.
Yeah,
like,
and coaching from behind, where he's behind the chains. he's not sure what play call, because he was so ready to have something work. And we saw that at Texas, because when they didn't necessarily have the ability to do it, and week one, Bobby Slowick, when he had Joe Mixon, looked a lot better because a lot more of the plays were working.
Yep, you're right.
And
more predictable. Yeah.
And so it was, okay, well, we can hand the ball off, and we get 6 yards with Joe Mixon. So everything's going according to plan. So that offense looked a little bit better. The penalties set him back, but that was a much more penalty-laden game than it was necessarily the run game. Now the run game's setting you back, and the penalties are setting you back. You have two of them. You just have to. We saw it happen at Texas. So I think part of it is just you just have to do it long enough. We're probably seeing some of that in Atlanta too. There's a certain amount of play calling when you're the first time play caller, and Sark definitely wasn't when he got to Texas. But for Bobby Slowick and for Zach Robinson, Atlanta, their first time. They've never really held a book and had to think that far ahead and have so many contingencies and be ready for your team to fail 5 times out of 10.
Pretty much. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think you were just hitting it on the head, though. The contingency plans, maybe that's what he's lacking. Maybe it's just that simple, that you need to have a range of contingency plans, and depending on what the outcome of that play is. And that's a lot for a young coordinator to keep up with. But I think that could help him out a lot. That could help him out with staying out of those 3rd and long, save me CJ situations, which is what they're in way too often, in my opinion. All right, good stuff there. We come back. We'll talk about the Thursday night football game. Tonight, you got the Falcons facing the Bucs. I'm not sure what's going on with the Falcons. We thought it was an Arthur Smith problem. Turns out, I don't know if it's an Arthur Smith problem because he's no longer there, but the same issues seem to exist for the Atlanta Falcons. They don't know who they want to be offensively, and they can't seem to activate and weaponize their best players. That includes Bijan Robinson. We'll talk about that when we come back. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little NFL discussion. I want to talk about the game tonight. You got the Atlanta Falcons facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I mean the Bucs are right now one of the surprise teams in the NFL. Shouldn't be. Last year they were good, but a lot of people assumed regression from Baker Mayfield because of Dave Canales left, and they thought, okay, Baker's ascent is directly tied to Dave Canales because he's had these, quarterback these kind of quarterback reinventions on his resume before, where he's been able to resuscitate the skill set of a quarterback who a lot of people thought was a bust or thought could be discarded or thought was done. And did it with Geno Smith, did it with Baker Mayfield. Well, Baker Mayfield's showing there may be a little staying power to what his ascent and his circuitous route, as I describe it, to be the starting quarterback for the Bucs. And I think he's got everybody rethinking whether, man, the Bucs may need to look at him as more than a stopgap or a bridge quarterback. They just gave him a nice little contract because of what he did, and I think this year he is showing them right now that they may have made a wise decision investing in Baker Mayfield. Right now, he's 4th in passer rating in the NFL, 2nd in passing touchdowns in the NFL right now. And one thing, right now he's on pace. I think honestly, right now he's on pace for like 4,000 yards. He's on pace to have a better year now. I don't think he'll get to 4,000, but he's on pace to have a better year now than he did last year. He's on pace for a 30-plus touchdown season. He's 2nd in the NFL right now in passing touchdowns. I think he's got 8, if I'm not mistaken. And if you go look at the amount of consecutive games, even going back to last year, where a quarterback has had at least 2 passing touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, Baker's got 12 straight games with at least 2 passing touchdowns. Only Dak Prescott and Jordan Love have more. So he's building on what he did last season, and basically, the Bucs have led. How about this? The Bucs have led for 62% of their offensive snaps. That's 2nd in the league. That's 2nd in the NFL. And you go look at the offense right now. It's clicking. Liam Cohen is the new offensive coordinator. He's also from that McShanahan tree. He's from the Sean McVay side of that McShanahan coaching tree. And he's doing a really good job. I think he's using some of the same concepts that Dave Canales used, but also I think a lot of this is the maturity and development of Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay leads the NFL with a 61% success rate on first down passing plays. So that means, because Dave Canales wants to run the ball a lot. Remember, Dave Canales is big in committing to the run. They're getting a 61% success rate on first down passing plays. That's when they're deciding to give the offense to Baker. Like, no, Baker, you take it. We don't now establishing the run game. We're gonna give the offense to you. And they have look at their success rate on rushing plays on first down, 29%. So they got the best offense throwing the football on first down. Basically, you look at success rate, and they have the 24th worst rushing offense on first down. So you can see where they want to go. That they want to throw the football. They want to give the football to Baker. But I would say the only thing right now hurting, that formula of being over reliant on Baker, because he's playing at a really high level, is pass protection. They haven't protected him very well. And that's something that the Atlanta Falcons have to take advantage of in this matchup. Otherwise, they may get boat raced potentially by the Bucs. The Bucs have that capability, especially the way that Baker Mayfield's playing. They got to find a way to get to Baker early and get to him often. They've allowed 15 sacks so far this year in 4 games. That's a lot of sacks. So they've had some issues in pass protection. Unfortunately, the Falcons ranked 32nd in sack percentage. So how about this? If the Falcons are able to get to Baker, then that means the Bucs pass protection is really bad. Like, we're talking about some of the worst in the NFL. And that may be a glaring deficiency for them that will keep them from potentially winning that division. Because Atlanta, that's one of their weakest elements of their team. They don't get after the passer very well. They don't get after the opposing quarterback very well. So right now, I'm probably leaning Bucs in this thing just because of how well Baker Mayfield is playing. And also just I think Baker Mayfield's maturity. Another one of these stories, we talked about this with Geno Smith, talked about it with Sam Darnold. These quarterbacks who were once discarded and thought of as a lost cause, and then they found the right situation, the right coach, the right system, and they're able to resuscitate and revitalize their skill set, right? And Dave Canales is kind of what helped Baker do that. But now we're starting to see Baker build on that without Dave Canales. So Dave Canales is not going to get all the credit. I think Baker's got to get some of this credit. And I started looking at all the offensive systems and the offensive coaches that have called plays for Baker. Todd Haley, Todd Monken, Alex Van Pelt, Ben McAdoo, Sean McVay, Dave Canales, Liam Cohen. And I went back to Cliff Kingsbury and Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley was the last consistent offensive play caller he had basically for more than a couple of years, right? Because everybody else he's had since he started in college. We're talking about 12 years total for Baker. He's had 9 different offenses or 9 different coordinators, play callers that he has had to deal with and that he has had to acclimate to in the years he has played college and pro ball. 9 of them. And like I said, the only ones he really was with an extended time with was Lincoln Riley. And I think with that Browns group, maybe he had some consistency there with maybe it was Kevin Stefanski. Got to go see if he was with him for more than, 1 year. But most of the coordinators he's been with, it's just a one and done. And I think usually that stunts the development of anybody, by the way. You got that much turnover and that, changing terminology and changing systems constantly like that and never allowing you to gain any familiarity or, not to have any comfort in that system, not to be a veteran in that particular system. It can be, I think, traumatic and damaging to the development of any player at any position in any sport, by the way. But I do think there's a great book called The Obstacle is the Way, that if you are able to overcome all that turnover and you're able to master all of those different systems to a certain level of competency, I do think if you come out on the other side of it, you are a better quarterback for it. You have expanded your football acumen, your football IQ, and I think it'll help you further be able to immerse yourself and be able to master systems going forward. Because the truth is, fundamentally, all football systems are they have pretty much the same basic fundamentals and principles, right? But everybody's got their own terminology. Everybody's got their own tendencies. Everybody's got their own things they prioritize and emphasize. And that's usually where the changes come in and where they vary. So once you start, I imagine somebody like, Baker, who's been in now down in 10 different systems in 12 years, has probably now figured out what the commonalities are between them, right? He's probably figured out what the common, like, basic principles are in all football offenses, because he's been in so many different kinds. And then now is probably now better suited to be able, and I would say probably just more knowledgeable overall, but he's probably in a better place now to be able to quickly master and quickly, pick up and acquire the information, right, with a new offense. That's why the Liam Cohen offense, he might just picked up with Dave Canales, I thought, but the offense looks a little different. But I don't think Baker's struggling with it, because I think Baker has this adaptability now in his game because of all the offenses he's had to master. I think now he's becoming more of a game executive who probably has more diversity and variety in his skill set now, and probably can play in a lot more of the offense. They say he's running now. They're like, oh, Baker's running a lot now. I'm like, Baker's running. Mike Evans called him a dual threat quarterback today. I was like, Baker's not a dual threat quarterback, but he is running a lot. You'll notice it tonight. He's running. Yeah. Baker didn't run. I mean, in college he ran some. In NFL, you didn't see him as a running quarterback.
For the Browns, he ran solely away from other people because the Browns' offensive line couldn't protect him at points. But
so I guess that's it. Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily running forward a ton. It was more just trying to get away from sacks. By the way, Stefanski, it was technically 2 seasons,
So 2
did
seasons,
well the
okay.
first season. The second season was the one where he partially tore his labrum in week 2.
Yeah.
And so he's basically hurt all season, then eventually gets put on IR and his season ends. But that was the one where he was hurt pretty much all season. That second year they trade for Deshaun after that, so he's gone then. But that was so basically he got 2 years, but really a year and a half. And that second
1
year
year,
was that he was underperforming, and then they went, well, he has a partially torn labrum, and everyone went, that's still he shouldn't be throwing interceptions. And
should be throwing it short and should be skipping, but he shouldn't be throwing picks. His decision making was off too. He's making better decisions. He's playing better than Deshaun Watson, but he's making better decisions with the football. And I think I think he feels better about who he is as a person now too. I feel like when he first got to the league, there was like some insecurity stuff going on. And he was attacking the media and getting into it with teammates and getting into it with coaches and pointing the finger at a lot of folks. And I think now he's at a place where he's comfortable with who he is as a quarterback and as a person. And I think ultimately now we're getting the best of Baker. He's joking with the media now. I think he's a better teammate now. That's been reported. So I think he has improved. Like
and I get too, there's something psychological about someone who had to overcome so much and then being put with his massive expectations that he's a walk-on in college and then he transfers up. And there was never really these massive expectations for him. And then he's the number 1 pick in the draft. So now the expectations are you're supposed to be a Hall of Famer. They want you to be one of the great, you're supposed to be one of the greats. And those expectations are just rough on you because every day you're being told you're not good enough. And all up to this, you've been overachieving. So everyone's been telling you how great you are because you're overachieving. And now you're underachieving. And you're the same guy. Now he's back to overachieving again because he reset his career. And now everything he does, he's overachieving once again. And it feels like he can live in that space much, much easier, which most people can't. It's really hard to deal with the pressure of every day being told you're not good enough when you're still not bad.
I totally agree with you. It's almost, the underdog mindset. He thrives in it.
Yeah.
That's where he naturally, I think that's where he naturally kind of had built his football character from, as you just pointed out, as the walk on. It wasn't good enough. Nobody wanted to give me anything. And I think psychologically there is an adjustment there. And now he's the underdog again. So he's thriving in he likes the underdog where he's like Tom Herman. And Tom Herman loved being the underdog, right? Yeah. It's like, you're at Texas, dude. You can't be the underdog all the time, right? It's cool every now and then, but good Lord, man, sometimes you got to win as the favorite. And that's kind of what, so we'll see when Baker, because he's performing like a top 10 quarterback right now. And so if he has another really good season, then the expectations will come and you're no longer an underdog. So let's see where he is after this season in terms of his mindset. Okay, real quick before we get to break here, I have no idea what's going on with the Falcons offense. And I can't wait to watch it tonight because I got to figure out why the hell they're not activating Bijan Robinson or Kyle Pitts, by the way. Kyle Pitts, 8 catches on the season for 105 yards and 1 touchdown. He's only earned a target on 15% of his routes. He's going over 26 yards once this season. That's it. He has not had more than 3 catches in a game since week 13 of last season. And he has not had more than 4 catches in a game since week 5 of last season. And when they asked Raheem Morris about it, who's a former coach of mine when I was with the Bucks, he said stats are for losers. Basically, he's like, stats are for losers. And we're like, well, but still, that's about productivity. And Bijan's the same way. It ain't just Kyle Pitts. We thought when Arthur Smith left, Bijan is going to become a fantasy football freak. Not the case. Even that new Liam Cohen that new Zach Robinson offense, which is a Mick Shanahan offense. Bijan 20th in rushing yards, 20th in rushing yards per game. Rushing TDs, he's 27th. The longest rush he's had is 19 yards. So having had a 20-yard run, that's 46th. Yards before contact per rush, he's 24th. Yards after contact per rush, he's 35th. We all know Bijan's better than that. I'm blaming the offense, not Bijan. I know Bijan is a hell of a player. So that offense has got to figure some out because this offense has not found ways to activate or weaponize or detonate Kyle Pitts or Bijan Robinson in that offense. What is going on? So I can't wait to watch it because the assumption was, at least I assumed, with all those weapons and a Mick Shanahan offense, the Falcons are going to be a problem. Well, they got problems. They are not a problem. They just got problems. So we'll see that tonight and see that Atlanta offense on full display. But I'm picking the Bucks in this contest because I think the Atlanta Falcons got some things they got to tweak. They got to figure out, especially on the offensive side of the ball. All right, we come back. We'll wrap things up and put it in the oven. We'll play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify who said that. We'll play that on the other side when we come back. Right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But on new theme Thursdays, he comes up with a creative new theme that was that inspired him somehow. And the inspiration this time comes from the ACL Festival, which will start up this weekend. So all the artists that you're hearing are artists that will be featured in the ACL lineup. So we appreciate my man Patrick hooking us up there. He also hooked you up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. The topic for Big Fat Poll they posted at the Horn ATX on X. Right now, he wants to know which Longhorn has increased their draft stock the most so far this season. Right now, Gunnar Helm running away with this thing. 60% of you say it's Gunnar Helm, and I cannot argue that. He was also my pick as well. Jake Majors, 24% of you voted him as the player whose draft stock has increased the most, and Janae Barron with 13%, and Barron Terrell with 3%, pulling it up the rear there. All right, go check that out at the Horn ATX on X. All right, time to get into Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify or recall who said that.
Baker in particular, on 4th and 1, the Baker keeper, how many times he was almost brought down in extended plays, took care of the ball, threaded passes that were really ridiculous today. Just speak to what this guy is doing for you.
I mean, he's extremely difficult to defend. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the game right now. He keeps plays alive. He's the ultimate competitor.
What ultimate dual threat quarterback? Baker Mayfield?
One of the best dual threat quarterbacks in a day and age with the most dual threat quarterbacks in NFL history.
He really likes Baker, doesn't he? That's how you know he likes Baker. You start giving compliments that aren't even true.
That's what happens when you play with Tom Brady. You're like, no, he can actually run.
Tom Brady, who's been his quarterback? Tom Brady, like Jameis Winston and stuff like that. He's like, yeah.
That's not good. He's like, man, the dual threats.
That's hilarious. I gotta go. Let me see how many rushing yards Baker Mayfield has right now. Now he's got me curious. Thanks, Mike. I gotta look up the rushing yards here for Baker Mayfield. Okay. Yeah, all right. He's got 65 rushing yards. Actually, considering last year he had like 163 total, 65 already through 4 games, I guess is a lot for him.
12 carries, 12 carries through 4 games. So 3 carries a game might not make.
Actually,
it's not.
No, you're not doing threat. I'm not saying that.
Dual threat on that.
He's running a lot more than I anticipated him running. Can't you agree with that? Like he's averaging 5.4 yards per rush, most he's ever averaged in his career. He's never even averaged over. He averaged 5 yards per rush his like second year in the league, but he's never averaged over in any other year. He's never averaged over 4 yards per rush. Hell, 3.6 actually is his highest, other than his second year and this year. So it is outside of his normal running patterns.
Yeah,
he's got two touchdowns already rushing. His highest number in rushing touchdowns is 3 from his second year. So he's running a lot more.
Oh,
I think so.
I was trying to look at quarterbacks with the most rushes. Kyler Murray's got a crazy line though. 16 carries for his 164 yards.
Good Lord. Dude's averaging over 10 yards a rush.
2 yards a rush. He must have had a big one in there.
Good. Yeah, that is crazy. That's pretty wild, actually.
Oh, wow. And his long's only 29 yards.
So he's putting in some work. He's a problem. He's a problem.
He is when he decides to run, because he's only averaging 4 a game. But when he decides to, man, you better account for it.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. But yeah, Baker. Hey, using some of that dual threat ability, man. He's an old man now in the league, and he's running like that. Old man. Yeah, second year in the league, you're supposed to run like that. But now, what is he going on? His 8th year in the league? Yeah, man. Good for Baker. All right, so we'll get to watch Baker Money Maker tonight. Thank you, Patrick, for everything you do, brother. We appreciate it as always. You are the real MVP. Thank you to all you out there for listening and for watching. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. Remember, the revolution will not be televised, but we'll be talking about it here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.